was just fantasy. He used to believe in something. What happened? Meals for liberty. Gnostic sex cult, building his own world. A Gnostic sex cult, unhinged from reality. Totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly? It's not a Gnostic sex cult, James. No, it's not. Stop lying to your audience. No, it's not. It's not Gnostic, James. Mary Nardini tells us queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. Catch up, James. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. Whoa. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's capitalism. To pocket all that money from the mills for liberty. The left hates capitalism, but James won't admit it. He refuses to believe queer theory stabilizes normativity, gender binary, and the nuclear family. But James blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him, creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy. Is to believe in something. What happens for liberty? Gnostic sex cult, building its own world. The Gnostic sex cult, unhinged from reality. He's totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly?
Well, hey, everyone. Happy Friday. We made it. We did it. We are at the end of another week. And of course, that means in our grand Friday tradition, it's time for Happy Hour. Happy Hour is a stream we do on Fridays at 5 p.m. on YouTube, on X, on Rumble, where we do basically the same thing we always do, which is we watch long-form content and we do deep dives into the insanity of the world today, focusing almost entirely on the left, but sometimes we veer into other types of insanity too. And what makes Happy Hour different is we drink beer, or I drink beer. You don't have to drink beer, but I did go to the craft beer store earlier and I got my traditional 4 beers. And per our tradition, you guys will get a chance to vote on which beer I drink first in a couple of minutes. But we do have some orders of business to get through before that. First off, breaking news. Did you guys know that Candace Owens is charging $5,000 a minute to talk to her on the phone? I have to say, I literally saw this just before I went live and I was like, this website is a great idea and I'm absolutely going to sign up for this, because this website is absolutely something I would have done when I was like doing coaching and consulting and all that, because it is actually a good idea, where it's a website that you can go on and create an expert profile. And I will be doing this. I will not be charging as much as Candace Owens, but I will absolutely be doing this. And basically, you get to set a price where someone can text you a question, or they can ask for a video response, or they can request a video call. And I'm like, this is for coaches. I know this is not what this platform is built for, but like this would have been gold when I was doing coaching. You don't even know. Like something like this would have been so useful. Because I used to have all these people, and I still do have all these people today. Like they DM me questions, they email me questions, and I'm like, yo, it takes a lot of time to sort through emails that you get from people asking you questions, and everyone wants their answer, and I want to be respectful of everyone, but it takes a lot of my time, okay? And that's time I could spend writing, that's time I could spend doing content. So I actually think this is a great idea. However, I will certainly not be charging $5,000 a minute for a video call. And look at this. It's not even just that it's $5,000 a minute. There's a 15-minute minimum. So Candace Owens is charging $75,000 to talk to her for 15 minutes. And, you know, this is one of those things that I would have done when I was doing coaching and consulting, where it's like I used to, when I was doing consulting, I used to get all like, sometimes I would get these like project requests. And I hated consulting. I fucking hated it. I hated every minute of it. Consulting is the most lucrative thing I did. You can make so much money consulting, but I hated it so much that like I would get these requests for like different types of projects. And if I really didn't want to do a project, I would quote some astronomical amount. Like it might take like 10 hours of my time to do it, but I would be like $100,000 or something like that. Like I would quote some like ridiculous amount for that because I'd be like, I really don't want to do this. Like, you don't understand. I really don't want to do this. So I would just quote some astronomical amount because I knew that no one was going to pay it. Or if they did come back, because every once in a while they would actually come back and pay the astronomical amount, then I'm like, oh shit, well now I have to do it. Like now is a suck it up, buttercup, put on your big girl pants and actually do the thing you said you do moment, because they're going to pay you an astronomical amount of money to do it. So I completely understand the philosophy. I just think it's crazy that Candace Owens is charging $75,000 to talk to her for 15 minutes. Anyway, that's some breaking news that just happened. But guys, what we will be watching today is the other day there was congressional testimony in front of the same committee that did the Columbia testimony, in which one representative said that if people don't support Israel, they're going to be cursed by God. And another one asked, like, why is folks spelled with X? Well, apparently there is pervasive anti-Semitism in K-12 schools. You know, there's never been a congressional hearing about critical race theory in K-12 schools. Never been a congressional hearing about gender ideology in K-12 schools. Never been a congressional hearing about attacks on parental rights in K-12 schools. Nope, Republicans couldn't be bothered to do any of that. But do you know what scourge we are going to fight in K-12 schools? Anti-Semitism. Will they actually define anti-Semitism this time? I guess we'll have to watch to find out. So we're going to watch this today. It's not my traditional happy hour thing. We usually do a woke training on happy hour, but let's be honest, this is pretty much woke. So we're going to watch that. We do have a couple super chats. Oh my God, there was another super chat before I started that has disappeared. Where did Jen's super chat go? I saw it. Jen sent it. I don't know why that wasn't. Okay, so I found it. I don't know why I didn't have a star on it. Thank you, Jen, for the super chat. Also, Avelia, I don't know who that is, seems to know more than Lindsay, as they directly talk about capitalism ending to more or less bring on the utopia of gender theory, plus a lot of other stuff like techno-organics to gender. Jen, I'm not sure who that is. Alexander. So it's Alexander and Avila is their last name. Okay, I've never heard of them, Jen, but I do appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much for sending that in. I appreciate the tip. And then Naruto says, tomorrow Glenn Beck is premiering a podcast or interview on YouTube titled, "Why Are So Many Kids Coming Out as Trans?" So Glenn Beck hasn't yet figured out the difference between trans and non-binary. That's just great. That's great. Whatever. I always expect conservatives to be several years behind me on a daily basis, if not several months behind me, several years behind me. Autumn, we were just talking about you the other day and how you were. Autumn, do you know what I'm doing next month? The other day, Autumn, we were reminiscing about you freaking out about Nick Fuentes saying he liked me on the internet. And that was like, it was a nice walk down memory lane. But Autumn, do you know what I'm doing next month? Do you have any guesses? Autumn, who do you think is going to be a VIP at Nick Fuentes's AFPAC that in Detroit next month? Who do you think is on the VIP list? Uh-huh. 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 Have all your feelings about that, Autumn. Nick Fuentes and I are friends now. You're just going to have to learn to cope with it. Yes. Yes. I am going to meet Nick himself in person. Yep. I'm going to his event as a VIP. And guess what? When Nick got reinstated on Twitter, do you know what one of the first things he did was? He unblocked me. Why? Because I texted him at his phone number that I have. And I said, Nick, can you please unblock me on your Twitter account? Congratulations for getting it back. And he unblocked me like right away and he followed me. And now I'm going to his event. And it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Autumn's freaking out again. Nick is not a Nazi, Autumn. Lies and scandal. Lies and scandal, Autumn. I know not everyone finds this as funny as I do, but I find this pretty goddamn funny. Anyway, no, I am not going to seduce Nick. That is, don't start any fucking rumors. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. That is absolutely not going to happen. Nick, first of all, Nick is saving himself for marriage. Nick would never fornicate outside of marriage. And he is saving himself for a very young, very submissive, very hot Italian Catholic virgin. Okay. I would never insert myself in between Nick and his very young, very hot, very submissive Italian Catholic virgin. That would never, ever, 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 ever. It's inappropriate. Nick is way younger than me. It is inappropriate. I don't do that type of thing. No. Anyway. But I am actually looking forward to meeting him, and I think it's going to be an interesting event, and I think it's going to be a very interesting event, so we'll see about that. Anyway, on the topic of anti-Semitism, perfect. Before we get into this, we do have a couple other orders of business before we get started. Now, number one, always, of course, make sure you are subscribed to my main Substack, which is Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. This is my main content hub on the internet, and this is where you're going to find all my best clips, all my breakdowns of what the left is doing, the Woke 101 series, which is for people who are just kind of getting into this stuff, maybe feeling a little bit overwhelmed. I track news that's going on that I think is important. I put some of the best clips we find when we're watching all these videos, that sort of stuff. I also, just today, posted the 4-hour on-demand crash course that is How to Speak Socialist. So for the last 2 weeks on Thursday night, I've been giving a How to Speak Socialist live class. We did level 1 a week ago, which is all about what capitalism means. It's kind of like an introduction to what the left is and what they want and what they're trying to do in the world. We also talked extensively about why whiteness means capitalism. Last night, we focused on queer theory and abolish the family. So we're talking about the difference between trans and queer. We're talking about gender ideology. We're talking about abolish the family and that sort of thing. And these trainings are filled with clips that we have collected over the years that we've been doing this so you don't have to take my word for it. I never go pinky swear, trust me, bro. You don't have to take my word for it at all. You can hear from the left themselves what they're doing. And I have clips from the extreme anarcho-communist left. I have clips from the socialist, like the revolutionary socialist left. I've got clips from DEI trainings. I've got clips from classrooms. I've got clips from of things that are going to be taught to your kids in school. I have the whole gamut. So you're going to be able to see from start to finish where all the crazy ideas are coming from and get like a really in-depth crash course. This is going to be great for beginners, people who are newer to my work. If you need to come up to speed on the language that you hear on Socialism Saturday or things like that, then make some time. I know it's 4 hours long, but you can make some time. You can break it up into chunks if you want. Sit down, watch the full course, and you're going to be brought up to speed much quicker than all of us. So that is going to be a resource that you can find over on the Substack right now. I found out today through our Twitter group chat that Lauren Chen and her husband Liam own Tenet Media. Yeah, that was an interesting thing that did happen in the Twitter chat. Now I'm going to say, Naruto, like, I would really prefer that things that happen in the private Twitter chat stay in the private Twitter chat. I do appreciate the super chat, of course, but I would like to set the precedent that things that are in the private chat stay in the private chat. Now, this is not a big deal because this is public information. I just don't want to see any other super chats about things that are said in that private chat because it's private for a reason. It is not for public consumption. All right? So I appreciate the super chat. Thank you for that. All right, that's one thing you can find on the Substack. Another thing you can find is actually last night I did a cross post. I did another episode of my Inner Circle podcast, which is my supporter only podcast over on the main Substack. But this is actually a cross post with my new project, which is completely related to the other Substack. We're just keeping it separate because it is a separate project. This week, I launched a new Substack. I need a new Substack like I need a hole in the head, but there is actually a purpose to this. I have started writing my next book, and it's going to be How to Speak Socialist. And so what I'm doing, instead of going through traditional publishing, because I'm really reticent to do that, I've had some horrible experiences going through traditional publishing, but the biggest reason is that from the time you finish your manuscript until the time the book is actually available to purchase is like 12 to 18 months. So first off, I haven't even written the book yet. So the book needs to get written. And then when you go through traditional publishing, from the moment you send them your final transcript until the moment the book gets published, 12 to 18 months. So we're now talking about like as long as 2 years from the time that I start something to the time it actually makes its way into the world. Don't worry about it. No harm, no foul. I just don't want to set that precedent. So I appreciate you understanding. So I decided to do it a little bit differently this time. I decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to write my book via a Substack. So instead of sitting here banging away at a Word document or a Google Doc like every single night for like weeks or even months, why am I getting a phone call right now? It's a spam call. I'm shocked about that. I get like 8,000 spam calls a day. So I decided that instead of just like writing my book to myself and not like letting everyone in on it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the process of actually writing the book a public thing that everyone can participate in. You can join that by heading over to my new Substack, which is speaksocialist.substack.com. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than my main Substack in that every single thing on this Substack is going to be supporter only. So this is a premium Substack. If you want access to the book as I'm writing it and you want to be let in on the process of writing a book, and this will be my third book for people who don't know. So I'm not a beginner at this anymore. I've done this a couple times. Then that's going to come at a premium. All right. You're going to get to see my drafts. You're going to get access to my thoughts about it. There is an audio podcast version where I'm going to be like basically creating like an audiobook or doing an audiobook type version. That was what the cross post was with the Inner Circle, which is kind of like, which is my premium podcast over on the main Substack. Now, not every podcast is going to be a cross post with the Inner Circle. I'm going to kind of play that by ear. Some of them will be, some of them won't be. We're just going to have to work that out as we get into it. But I'm actually really excited about this project. I got really excited about it last night. Like basically I was like up at like 2, 3 a.m. and I really just wanted to keep writing and writing and writing. And it actually made me excited to write, which I haven't been excited to write in a while. So I think this is going to be a really fun project and I think it's going to produce something cool. And I think I think doing a book like this is a good way to do it because I feel like the pressure has been taken off of me to write it very quickly. For people who don't know, like I wrote my last 2 books in a matter of weeks. I wrote my first book in like 3 weeks and that sucked. My last book I was working on for a couple months and then I hated what I was writing. And so I scrapped the whole thing and started over. And I started over about a month before my deadline. And then I ended up blowing the deadline by another 2 weeks. So I took about 6 weeks to write the last book. But like that is a lot. If you've never written a book and you're banging one out in a couple of weeks, like from start to finish, like that is just a lot. And I feel like doing it this way, having it be on the Substack, having it be available to people so people can kind of get access to the content while I'm writing it, has taken some of the pressure off me in order to get it done really quickly, because the information is going to be there for people who want it. And then eventually the goal is to turn this into an actual book. And I have other ideas as well that I shared last night in this post here, what I want this book to be. There's some more ideas in there, because I don't just want this to be a normal book. I want to have other components to it as well. I want to do this really artfully. And so I think this is going to be a fun project, and I think it's not going to be what people expect it to be. And so I'm excited to have people involved and kind of seeing it from the ground floor. If you want to get involved in that, that is speaksocialist.substack.com, and you can sign up to follow along there. Another way you can support the work I'm doing is to head over to the Unwoke art store, where there is a whole bunch of cool stuff. So right now you can get the limited edition Unwoke Wiki Plague Doctor. I did also use the Plague Doctor for How to Speak Substack, the How to Speak Socialist Substack. I'm not sure that's going to stay the icon for the Substack, but it's going to be the icon for right now. And I'm going to come up with something better later. But we got the Plague Doctor for the Unwoke Wiki project. We also have all of these amazing zine-inspired shirts. The zine-inspired shirts come from another project we're doing called the Unwoke Underground, where we are creating things that you can print off at home, distribute in your community, and some of this stuff just looks so effing cool that I couldn't help but put it on a t-shirt. And I do have permission of the people who made it to do it, because these are made by people in my community. This is a project that we are doing in the supporter Discord. If you would like to join us and make some cool stuff like this, we'll teach you how to do it. You just need to get into the supporter Discord by becoming a supporter on my Substack. And so we got a whole bunch of zine inspired stuff going on there, and that's all really cool. I am also kind of going to be clearing out the Unwoke art store. I'm going to be getting rid of some of the older designs in there. So for the rest of the month of May, if you spend over $100 on merch from the store, use the promo code REDMAY, all one word, REDMAY, and you will get 25% off your entire order. So if you've got any like favorite things that are in the stores, whether that be my older t-shirts or mugs or tumblers or any of like the other, basically like everything is on sale in the store. You just need to spend $100 or more to get access to that deal. Again, the discount code is REDMAY, and that's going to be good through the end of the month, because I'm clearing out some of the old stuff, and I'm doing this kind of like on the fly. I'm not doing it just all at once. So the sooner the better that you guys get over there, the sooner you're going to have access to everything, because you don't know, like I might clear out some of the stuff that you want tomorrow just because I'm doing it on an ongoing basis, because there's a lot of stuff I need to clean out to make the store what I want the store to be. And so could be a last chance on some of the designs, especially some of the earlier ones that I kind of started the store with. So I hope you guys, enjoy that, take advantage of that. There's a lot of cool stuff in my store, man. There's a lot of cool stuff. And of course, purchases do help to support the work I'm doing, and I really do appreciate it. All right, with that out of the way, let's talk about beer. Now, I have 4 beers that I got from the craft beer store, and you guys are going to get to vote on which one I drink first. The first one is from a Boston-based brewery called Night Shift. Now, the cool thing about Night Shift is their logo. Check this out. So, what does that logo look like? An owl, right? That logo looks like an owl. What happens when you turn it upside down? Do you know what that is? That's hops. That's hops, as in one of the ingredients of beer. So their logo is hops when you look at it this way, and it's an owl when you look at it this way. I went to a beer tasting with them one time, and they explained that to me. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Anyway, this is called Wild Blue. This is an ale with wild blueberries. I love blueberry beer. Good blueberry beer is just amazing. Wachusett blueberry is my current favorite blueberry. It's been my favorite blueberry for a while, so we'll see if the Night Shift blueberry stacks up to that. Embark on a refreshing journey into the Wild Blue brewed with Wyman's Wild Blueberries. The beer bursts with juicy, fruity flavors of everything blue, and hopefully it will be a very blue beer as well. So that is our first option, our blueberry beer. Our next option is going to be from one of my most reliable breweries for like sours and that sort of thing. This is Magnify Brewing Company, and this is called Trade Proof. And it is a sour smoothie ale brewed with guava, coconut, and banana. So I'm hopeful. Like, I love coconut in beer. Banana, I don't know. We're gonna see how that goes, but I don't know. And I don't know what this has to do with dynamite, but apparently it has something to do with dynamite. And it doesn't give me any more information than that. So that's going to be guava, coconut, banana. Our next one, I'm actually really excited about drinking this one. I think that this might be just like a good like summer beer. This is a lager, and it's a lemon lavender lager. This is from Jack's Abbey's Craft Ales. That is a New Hampshire brewing company. Let's see. What does it say? Savor the sunny vibes of Lavenderade, a zesty lemon lavender lager with a touch of tartness, like sipping on the spring of the like a sip of spring on the back deck. It captures the essence of pure refreshment. Open your eyes and take. Obviously, a woman wrote the copy for this beer. Obviously written by a woman, but I still think it's going to be a good beer nonetheless. That is choice number 3. And choice number 4. We've got a really cool can. And this is from Branch Blade Brewing Company. Again, one of my favorite brewing companies. This is an Imperial Stout. Imperial means extra alcoholic. How alcoholic, you ask? Holy shit! I don't want to tell you guys how alcoholic this is. I don't want to tell you guys how. I should have looked at this before now. This is an Imperial Stout with, this is an Imperial Stout with Indonesian vanilla and dates. Everybody is always excited for the 3rd date, but the 8th date is where the magic really happens. That's when you're comfortable enough together to build an Imperial Stout recipe, let it boil overnight, then condition it on Indonesian vanilla beans and dates. We got together with our old brewer and bestie Isaac, who is now at the 8th state in Greenville, South Carolina, to do just that, and damn, it's magical. This beer is 13%. 13%. And I'm sure that's the one I'm going to end up drinking. Though I really want to drink the blueberry one. Can you guys please let me drink the blueberry one? All right, I'm putting the poll in the chat. You guys get to choose. We have blueberries. We have coconut, banana, guava. We have lemon, lavender. And we have the Imperial Stout. So cast your vote in the chat about which one you would like me to drink first. And I know you're all gonna, you guys just want to see me get drunk. In the meantime, I will set up the stream to watch our congressional hearing here. And God knows, if you're drinking something fun in the chat, we are watching a congressional hearing today. So now might be the time to get a fun drink. You guys are voting for the blueberry. Oh, I love you guys. I love you. I love you. All right, last chance to vote. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You guys are letting me drink the blueberry instead of the getting me drunk with the 13% Imperial. I love you guys. Thank you. Hang on. Let me put these in my fridge. Hang on. All right. I have a little mini fridge under my desk that my husband got me for my birthday just for my beer. Anyway, let's see how blue, before we get started, let's see how blue this blueberry is. Let's see. That's okay. I can still get drunk. I just don't have to get 13% beer drunk. It's not even blue. That's okay. Oh, I can smell the blueberry from here, though. Okay, I missed a super chat. I'll go back and get it. Sorry about that. I can smell the blueberry from here. Oh, that has a beautiful color. Oh my God. All right, let me check the super chat. I apologize for missing it. Apologies, Dragon Tail. I think we should toast a craft beer to Vivek for not flinching when Ann Coulter said she would not vote for him as president because he's an Indian. Yes, Ann Coulter will sleep with men who are not white, but she will not vote for them for president. Cheers, everyone, and a toast to Vivek. Vivek's the best. I don't like that he's speaking at the Libertarian National Convention because he's not a libertarian, but Vivek is the best. Cheers to him and cheers to all of you. Happy Friday. That is a delightful blueberry beer. That's like the beer that you want to drink at like out on the back deck or something or at the beach. Awesome. Awesome. All right, guys, we've got congressional hearings to watch. So let's get this party started. We are going to be learning about the pervasive anti-Semitism in K-12 schools. Please, of course, mount the like button for me. Mounting the like button tells YouTube to recommend my content because I am rather shadow banned on YouTube. So I would appreciate that. Also, do make sure you subscribe to the channel, whether or not you are on YouTube or Rumble, or follow me on X if that is where you're watching. We do stream Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Tomorrow we're doing Socialism Saturday at 6 p.m. Let's see what happened in Congress this week.
Welcome to your nation's capital. The subcommittee on early childhood, elementary, and secondary education will come to order. A quorum is present. Without objection, the chair is authorized to call a recess at any time. The Holocaust ended in 1945. The hate behind it has not. Anti-Semitism is repugnant in all its forms, but the topic of today's hearing is particularly troubling. It's hard to grasp.
As a reminder, thank you for the reminder, Judy. We have Bitchcraft tomorrow at 3 p.m. So Bitchcraft is an open Zoom for my supporters where we can craft. I actually have my knitting here. I'm ready for Bitchcraft. I've got my knitting. I'm going to be doing some knitting today. You can bring any craft to Bitchcraft. It's going to be at 3 p.m. tomorrow. You can find the link on the Substack. I'll be sending it out via the Substack and locals and all that stuff. So I do look forward to seeing some of you at Bitchcraft tomorrow at 3 p.m. prior to Socialism Saturday. Thank you for the reminder, Judy.
How anti-Semitism has become such a dominant force in our K-12 schools. Some kids as young as second grade
dominant force
spewing Nazi propaganda.
What?
Which begs the question: who has positioned these young minds to attack the Jewish people?
God.
The very need for this hearing is a travesty. The aftermath of October 7th has revealed some of the ugliest, most deprived ideas.
As a reminder, anti-racism has been taught in schools for the better part of over a decade now. And in the time that Republicans have controlled Congress or controlled the House of Representatives, they've never held any goddamn hearings on teaching anti-racism in schools or critical race theory in schools or social emotional learning in schools or culturally responsive teaching in schools or gender ideology in schools, or attacks on parental rights that are happening in schools, or the transing of kids that's happening in schools, or any of the other shenanigans that I've been covering for goddamn years. But stop the fucking presses. Some kid said from the river to the sea, and now we've got to have a whole congressional hearing on anti-Semitism in schools. Fuck you, Republicans. Seriously.
Marginalized from polite society, and our education system has failed to stop it. It's not just anti-Israel, it's anti-American, it's anti-democracy.
Yes, as we know, according to the Republican Party, being anti-Israel is, of course, also being anti-American, because apparently Israel and America are the same goddamn country, according to the GOP.
Witnesses today three of our witnesses represent some of the largest school districts in the nation where there's been some vile anti-Semitism in their districts. Just a few minutes ago, we heard from students, parents, and even a teacher who said this is happening without an appropriate or any response at all. Jewish students in their districts fear riding the bus, wearing their kippah to school, or just eating and breathing as a Jewish student. Today, we get to hear from the leaders of these districts to tell us what are you doing? What are they doing to keep students safe? New York City, and I just met Mr. Banks, is the home to the largest, most vibrant Jewish community in the nation. So the stories coming out of the New York City public schools are harrowing. Reports that we have surfaced that students marched through the halls, disrupting class, chanting, "Kill the Jews." One student was caught on a security camera appearing as Hitler and performing a Nazi salute. 3 swastikas were drawn on teachers' walls in 1 week. Antisemitism has occurred within Montgomery County public schools, and it hits close to home. It's just 15 miles from here. MCPS schools have been home to student walkouts featuring calls to kill the Jews, bring Hitler back, and what's worse, the administrators approved excused absences for the walkouts in violation of district policy. And finally, Berkeley, Unified School District, was thrust into the national spotlight in perhaps the most public fashion of the group. The allegations are most serious.
That sounds delightful,
While not
Gloria.
exhaustive, the details of the piece includes kids playing Nazi salute songs to their Jewish classmates, chants of "Kill Israel"
What?
and KKK, and telling Jews to pick up pennies. In light of these reports, I'll tell you what my question is going to be to our witness.
Has there been a rash of children playing Nazi songs in their classes? Like, is this a real thing? I don't believe any of this is real. I'm sorry.
This is, what are you doing to keep students safe? And how can we stop this? How can we stop this? You've been accused of doing nothing and turning a blind eye. We're going to give you a chance to say exactly what you're doing and what are you doing to keep.
Has anyone reported this that's not the Daily Wire? Has anyone, how much does anyone want to bet? If, I swear to God, if we hear Christ is King is anti-Semitic or some derivation of Christ is King is anti-Semitic in this congressional hearing, then Nick Fuentes wins. Nick Fuentes wins everything perpetually for the rest of his life.
Students safe. Middle and high school students are hard enough. It's just hard enough being a kid in middle and high school without the added fear of being Jewish. I can hardly fathom sending one of my sons to school knowing he'll be exposed to vile, hate-filled discrimination, yet parents are faced every day with this struggle. It doesn't have to be this way. This is the moment for all of us to take a stand against hate, against the indoctrination and radicalization of the next generation of future leaders. With that, I yield to the ranking member for her opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. There is no question that we must do more to combat anti-Semitism, not just in schools, but everywhere. We must do more to protect Jewish students and Jewish Americans who are threatened and harassed and attacked because of who they are. Every student deserves to feel safe and be safe at school.
I think we actually need
At the
to
same
do
time, we
less.
must do more to address the rise in Islamophobia and other forms of discrimination and hate as well. I have said multiple times, I hope this committee can work together on constructive ways to address the scourge of anti-Semitism. And I will express that hope again today, that we seek solutions that
Why is she
recognize
wearing a mask?
the seriousness and scope of the challenge, the importance of keeping students safe at school, and the need to balance the civil
Socialist.
rights of students to be free from discrimination under Title
That
VI
woman
of
wearing the
Civil
mask
Rights
probably
Act,
hates all
with
of
the
this.
First Amendment right to free speech and expression. This is the Education Committee, and I hope we will discuss the important role of education and, importantly, prevention. In fact, at the top of the list on the Biden administration's U.S. national strategy to combat anti-Semitism is to increase school-based education about anti-Semitism, including the Holocaust and Jewish American heritage.
Oh yeah, we got to teach more of
Anti-Semitism
it.
is not a new
Yeah,
problem.
definitely.
The ADL, the
That's a great
Anti-Defamation
idea.
League, has been working on it for decades. And in fact, they even have a Center for Anti-Semitism
Oh wow,
Research.
the ADL? You don't
AJC, the American
say.
Jewish Committee, has an action plan with a toolkit for public school administrators. Lesson plans and other teaching materials are widely available through organizations like the U.S. Holocaust.
Guys, I just want to say, I feel like there was a void in our chat when Autumn was gone, and now Autumn is back, and I want everyone to feel free to bully the shit out of Autumn. Autumn is exempt. Like, normally I have 2 rules in my chat: don't be a dick and no whining. Autumn is the exception. You guys can bully Autumn. You guys can say whatever you want to Autumn. Like, it's okay. I don't care. Autumn would do it right back if she could get away with it. And I just feel like we're really glad you're back, Autumn, because I feel like there was a void in our chat when we didn't have anyone to bully. Rottweiler said, so this is poop swastika in a southern bathroom stall 2.0. I still remember the fake scandal during the alt-right scare almost a decade ago. Yeah. Yeah.
Memorial Museum. Like New York and several other states, my home state of Oregon requires Holocaust and genocide studies with age-appropriate curriculum available. I remember and thank my late friend, Holocaust survivor Alter Weiner, who when he was in his 80s and early 90s told his story of survival to hundreds of audiences in universities, colleges, middle schools and high schools, places of worship, prisons and clubs, personally and through his book, From a Name to a Number. That's the kind of unforgettable education that makes a real difference. May his memory.
Can you imagine the freak out that Autumn's going to have when I'm actually at AFPAC in the vicinity of Nick Fuentes? I'm going to take a picture of Nick Fuentes just like in person, just for Autumn. I'm gonna ask Nick. I'm gonna be like, Nick, can I get a video of you saying hi to Autumn? No, I'm not actually gonna do that, but that would be that would be so fucking funny. It would only be funny to us, like Nick would have no fucking clue about it, but it would be funny if I got a video of Nick saying, hi, Autumn.
Be a blessing. I also want to emphasize strongly that it's important for leaders to stand up to anti-Semitism no matter where it comes from. Many of my colleagues claim to care about the rise of anti-Semitism in this country. But when white supremacists marched in Charlottesville, Virginia with burning torches and chanting, "Jews will not replace us," the president at the time, Donald Trump, said there were very fine people on both sides. One of the participants at that Unite the Right rally was Nick Fuentes, a vile anti-Semite, who, among other statements, has denied.
Oh my God! A Nick mention? Holy shit! A Nick mention in the opening fucking statements. Cheers to Nick. Yes, Autumn, I do think it's funny. I do think it's funny to hang out with Nick Fuentes. You want to know why? Because it's funny, okay? This is like an Odd Couple type thing. This is like this has got kitsch written all over it. And also Nick Fuentes is actually really funny. Like in real life, he's actually funny. You're telling me that it's going to be toxic to be associated with him? Nick Fuentes gained over 100,000 new Twitter followers within like a day of his account being reinstated. I don't think that's toxic, Autumn.
The scope of the Holocaust, while comparing Jews exterminated in concentration camps to cookies being baked in an oven. Former President Trump hosted Nick Fuentes at Mar-a-Lago in November of 2022. General John Kelly, who served as then President Trump's chief of staff, has stated that the former president spoke favorably about Hitler, including that Hitler had done some good things. And just a few months ago, Donald Trump said, quote, any
Jewish
Nick
shouldn't have said that.
person that votes
that was
for Democrats
bad.
hates
Disavow.
their religion. Despite these persistent...
Hitler obviously never did anything good, and Nick Fuentes was very, 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 very wrong to ever insinuate that Hitler was anything other than the worst person that's ever lived, and he never did anything good, and there is no redeeming quality ever, and we always need to remind people of that, YouTube.
Examples of comments that others have called anti-Semitic and continued relationships with well-known anti-Semites, I have not heard one word of concern from my colleagues across the aisle. In fact, what we have seen is consolidation of support for the former president. If my colleagues care about anti-Semitism, they would condemn and denounce these comments from the leader of their party. So I will offer my colleagues on the other side of the aisle the opportunity right now to condemn these previous comments. Does anyone have the courage to stand up against this?
Does anything?
Let the record show that.
She just literally asked everyone to condemn Nick Fuentes and call... Are you serious? In her opening statement, she asked everyone to condemn Nick Fuentes.
No one spoke up at this time.
No, because
I look forward to the testimony and
doesn't deserve to be
conversation
condemned.
today, again, with the hope that we could have a constructive dialogue about how to fight back
stupid.
against anti-Semitism, so all students can be safe and feel safe at school, whether that's a K-12 school, a college, or a university. And I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you very much, Ranking Member Bonamici. Pursuant to Committee Rule 8C, all
Do you know what's going to make everyone in K through 12 schools safer right now? If everyone in Congress comes out and unilaterally condemns Nick Fuentes.
committee members who wish to insert written statements in the record may do so by submitting them to the committee clerk electronically in Microsoft Word format by 5 p.m. after 14 days from the date of this hearing, which is May 22nd, 2024. And without objection, the hearing record will remain open for 14 days after the date of this hearing to allow such statements and other materials referenced during the hearing to be submitted for the official record. I note the subcommittee, for the subcommittee, there are members of colleagues that are not a permanent part of the subcommittee who may be waving on for the purposes of the day's hearing. And now let's get to the introductions of our distinguished panel. Our first witness is Mr. David Banks. He is the Chancellor of the New York City Public Schools for the New York City Department of Education in New York, New York.
Oh, good. So you're telling me that Republicans have an opportunity. I don't care what big tech has to say. If big tech has something to say to me, then he can say it. He can say it like I don't care. I think his opinion is wrong. I don't want to hear anything more about it. Okay? Big tech got his chance to say to me what he wanted to say to me. I took it in. I disagree with him. You guys keep bringing it up. Like, he's allowed to have, like, I'm gonna be honest. Right now, big tech is like seething and coping over the fact that Nick is back on Twitter. He's having a goddamn meltdown, and I think it's really sad to watch. And I like him, but I do not like the I do not like the seething and the coping over the over Nick being back on Twitter. I don't like it. I don't think it's attractive, and it certainly does not bolster his point that I should not be associating with Nick. Like, seething and coping is not, no. I do not agree with him. If he had presented an opinion and then not had kind of like a fucking downward spiral where he was spending time seething and coping for like hours on end about Nick being back on Twitter, he doesn't care about protecting me. That's not true at all. Come on. Everyone needs to accept this. All right? And I didn't want to choose between the two of them, but like, the whole seething and coping thing is just not attractive, and it doesn't bolster his case. And Nick is being perfectly fine on Twitter. Nick is actually acting responsible for once. I'm not sure how long that'll last. So no, I don't think he was trying to protect me. I think that he was trying to get one over on me because he was pissed off that Nick was back. I think that he was. I think that he was. It was like a territorial. It was like a man fucking territorial thing. Well, no, I don't even agree with this. I don't even agree with this. You want to know why? Because seething and coping is not hot. It's not. And so I understand that some of you guys are on his side, but I don't want to get caught in the middle of some sort of fucking territorial dispute between men, which is stupid. Anyway, we're going to stop talking about this now. You guys have been bringing this up in the chat a lot lately. I've been ignoring it because I didn't want to address it, because I didn't want to go down that road. But if Big Tech wants to have a conversation with me, he knows how to reach me, okay? But I remain unconvinced based on what's been presented to me so far. Anyway, let's get back to this. So you're telling me Republican congressmen have a chance to question the head of the New York City public schools, And instead of talking about critical race theory, instead of talking about gender ideology, instead of talking about the fact that most people in New York City public school, most students in New York City public schools can't read, what we're going to be talking about is anti-Semitism. All right. No, the thing is, they're not even fighting over me. They're not even, first of all, Nick doesn't even fucking care. Nick blocked Big Tech on Twitter because Big Tech was like being a baby on Twitter. I'm sorry, but it was true, and seething and coping about the whole thing, and just had to get his word in, which he's allowed to do. But then Nick blocked him on Twitter, and then there was a whole fucking stream about how Nick blocked him on Twitter, and the seething and coping from Nick blocking him on Twitter. And it's like, that is so unattractive. So they're not fighting over me. I am immaterial in this situation. Big Tech doesn't give a shit about me. Nick doesn't really give a shit about me. I just happen to be in the middle of the situation. And I think what it is, it's more like a fucking chess piece. That's what it feels like to me. And I don't like it. So God damn it. Well, yeah, I mean, of course they're trying to bait him to get him banned. Of course they are. But Nick, I think, is smart enough to see through that. All right. Can we all focus on congressional testimony now and not men having pissing contests trying to prove who has the bigger cock or who has more influence or who is more or less anti-Semitic than the other, or who is more or less racist than the other, or any of these things? Can we please focus on the congressional hearing now? Can we please? My position is I'm going to AFPAC. I have been going to far left socialist events for years now. No one ever had a problem with that. I've been not only have I been invited, they're going to give me dinner and stuff. So this is going to be a much more pleasant thing for me to go to than any of the far left socialist shit that I've had to wear disguises for and sneak around into and all that stuff. I want to see what this event is about in person for myself. People can have all the feelings they want about it. I don't care, but I'm not going to get caught in the middle of the seething and the coping over who has a Twitter account.
The New York City Public Schools is the largest system in the nation. He was appointed by Mayor Eric Adams on January 1st, 2022, but he started his career as a school safety officer, after which he began his first teaching job at PS Public School 167. Chancellor Banks serves as an assistant principal at PS 191 before becoming a founding principal at the Bronx School for Law, Government, and Justice. He is a native New Yorker and graduate of the New York City Public School System. He holds a bachelor's degree from Rutgers University and earned his JD from St. John's University of Law. Our second witness is Carla Sylvestri. Sylvestri, who is the president of the Montgomery County Board of Education for the Montgomery County Public Schools in Rockville, Maryland. Ms. Sylvestri was elected to her second four-year term on November 8th, 2022. She's currently serving a second term as president of the Board of Education. Ms. Sylvestri's education policy experience began at the University of Pennsylvania, where she worked at the Penn-Merck Collaborative for Science Education, working as a teacher, professional development, and hands-on science education in West Philadelphia schools. She served as vice president for children and youth for a large nonprofit managing preventive school year and
Okay, so she's in Philadelphia Public Schools. Philadelphia Public Schools teaches anti-racist math throughout their math curriculum. Their entire math curriculum is steeped in that shit. They're teaching this thing called tree equity, in which one of the things they talk about in math class in the Philadelphia Public Schools is which sections of Philadelphia have more trees than other sections. But no, we're going to talk about anti-Semitism. All right, kids can't do math in Philadelphia Public Schools, but anti-Semitism is the real problem.
Youth programs. Ms. Sylvestri graduated from Florida State University with a bachelor's degree in biology and received her master's degree in education from the University of Pennsylvania. Greetings from the Sunshine State, Ms. Sylvestri. We're glad to see where you are. Let's yield to Ms. Bonamici for introduction of a witness.
I welcome to the committee Emerson Sykes, a senior staff attorney with the American Civil Liberties Union.
Oh, good. The
who works on the Speech,
ACLU.
Privacy and Technology Project.
Great.
He focuses on First Amendment free speech protections, and among other things, he previously served as a legal advisor for Africa at the International Center for Nonprofit Law and served as an assistant
that's
general
true.
counsel to the New York City Council.
That
Mr.
is
Sykes holds a
true.
bachelor's degree in political science from Stanford University, a master's in public affairs from the Princeton School of
That's
Public
funny,
and International
actually.
Affairs, and a Juris Doctor from the New York University School
I
of
feel
Law.
bad about
Welcome to the
laughing at
committee,
that,
Mr.
but it is legitimately funny.
And our final witness is Miss Anikia Ford Morthel. Absolutely. She's the superintendent of the Berkeley Unified School District in Berkeley, California.
Oh, good.
Miss Morthel
Berkeley.
is an urban educator and community activist with over 21 years of experience. Aside from serving as superintendent of Berkeley Unified School District, she is a professor, senior lecturer at the urban education at Loyola Marymount University. She is active in the community, serving as
He
a board
can't
member for
even
organizations
pronounce
such as 826
the
Valencia,
university
Westhead,
name,
and other
Loyola
nonprofit
Marymount.
organizations with missions aligned to hers. She is a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Ms. Ford Morthel holds a BA and master's degrees in education from the University of California at Berkeley. Welcome to all our witnesses. We thank you for being here and look forward to your testimony. Pursuant to committee rules, I would ask that you limit each of your oral presentations to 5 minutes with summary of your written statements. Your full written statement is in the record, but just like us up here, you get 5 minutes. That's what our little timer system will do it. If by chance you go past, I'll give you a little type, and that's the great way to say wrap it up. I recognize I want to recognize of your responsibility to provide accurate information to the subcommittee. With that,
I truly and sincerely hope that I am never put in a position where I'm called to testify in front of Congress. That would legitimately be like terrifying, and and I would inevitably probably not take it as seriously as I probably should take it, and I would probably say something that would get me in trouble.
let's get started. It's now a pleasure to recognize Mr. Banks for his 5-minute testimony. Welcome, you're recognized.
Turn on your microphone. Hit the button, David.
Okay, hope I didn't lose my time. Thank you so much again. Good morning, Chairwoman Fox, Chairman Bean, Ranking Member Scott, Ranking Member Bonamici, and distinguished members of the committee and subcommittee. Thank you for inviting me to address the horrific rise in anti-Semitism, the #1 religious-based hate crime in America. I also want to thank Devorah Halberstam, Rabbi Joseph Potasnik, Michael Cohen, and Reverend Jacques DeGraff for joining me here today. Today, I will share how we are confronting the scourge of anti-Semitism in our New York City public schools. The New York City school system, which is our nation's largest, is a community of over 1 million students and staff. We speak over 180 different languages in our schools. Our diversity, however, means that our classrooms are not insulated from the global stage.
Do you guys think that English should be the national language? Like that it should be official? Because like I used to be ambivalent about this, but I've kind of like, I remember when Victor and I used to have to go to immigration court, and that's about just as fun as it sounds. Where before Victor got his it was like in between when we got married and when Victor got his green card, which was like we had to go to immigration court like every once in a while for like 4 years, okay? And so basically what happens when you go to immigration court is you go to the court, you sign in, you basically wait for the judge to call your name. You, like Victor would go up, say, "Yup, still in the country," and then you leave. And then we had to wait around with everyone else in immigration court. And what I experienced in immigration court when I was waiting around is being surrounded by a metric ton of Mexicans and other Spanish-speaking individuals that did not speak one word of English. And many of them had been in the country for a really long time. and they had no desire to learn English, and they had no desire to assimilate, and it was just kind of one of those things. And this is back when I was a Democrat. This was like 10 years ago. This was over 10 years ago. And even then I was like, you know what? That's kind of bullshit. That's kind of bullshit. Like, I mean, I understand. I don't begrudge people wanting to immigrate here. Obviously, I married an immigrant, but my immigrant husband started learning English when he was like 7 years old. And my immigrant husband wants to speak English well. He's not like rebelling against the entire system, right? And so, I don't know. I kind of feel like I want English to be like the official language of the United States, because I feel like if people in the country can't communicate, that's not to say people can't speak other languages too. But if people can't communicate with each other because some people refuse to learn fucking English when most people in the world learn English at some point, then I just think that's going to cause problems.
Since October 7th, our students and staff, Jewish and Muslim, Israeli and Palestinian, have suffered immensely. I, too, have felt deep pain, reflecting on my own 2 trips to Israel with the Jewish Community Relations Council. Again and again, my mind has returned to my visit to Yad Vashem, a profoundly moving experience for me. In the immediate aftermath of October 7th, New York City Mayor Eric Adams made very powerful remarks condemning the terror attacks. I, too, sent messages to our school community strongly condemning the heinous acts of Hamas. But words are not enough. There have been unacceptable incidents of anti-Semitism in our schools. When Jewish students or teachers feel unwelcome or unsafe, that should sound the alarm for us all. So I recognize the urgency of addressing this crisis from my seat. As an educator of 30+ years, as the leader of the system nurturing the next generation of New Yorkers, it is not only my job to produce good readers and writers. Our schools must also build good people who demonstrate respect and appreciation for our shared humanity. When it comes to rooting out anti-Semitism, our public schools must be part of the answer. So let me tell you about our work to meet this moment, which are focused on safety, engagement, and education. Number 1, safety is a precondition for learning. I started my career as a school safety officer, and my father was a proud, decades-long officer of the New York City Police Department. Keeping schools safe is in my DNA. When anti-Semitism rears its head, I believe we must respond, and we have. We have removed, disciplined, or are in the process of disciplining at least a dozen staff and school leaders, including removing a principal in the middle of a school year.
For what?
We have suspended at least 30 students. We've involved the NYPD when hate
For
crimes
what?
are committed. And we've retrained all 1,600 principals on our discipline code to ensure that it is enforced properly. Secondly, we've engaged dozens of partners to help us design longer-term solutions. My instinct as a leader in moments of crisis.
This app that Candace Owens is charging $5,000 a minute to be on is owned by Patrick Bet-David. That makes sense.
Is never to shy away from an issue, but rather to lean into it to understand it better. New York City is home to the largest Jewish community outside of Israel and many of the nation's foremost Jewish institutions. So we have strengthened our relationships with these partners, which include the UJA Federation, the JCRC, the Anti-Defamation League, the Simon Wiesenthal Center's Museum of Tolerance, the Jewish Children's Museum, Project Witness, and many more. I also launched for the first time in our history an Interfaith Advisory Council, because we must model for our students how to build bridges, engage in genuine dialogue, and share each other's pain in challenging times. And finally, education. We cannot simply discipline our way out of this problem. The true antidote to ignorance and bias is to teach. My own children learned about anti-Semitism firsthand from our next-door neighbors who were Holocaust survivors in Teaneck, New Jersey. But as survivors pass on, and in light of current events, the need for education becomes even more pressing. Our students cannot grow up to view anyone as the other. So in addition to covering the Holocaust in the 8th, 10th, and 11th grades, we're creating a robust Holocaust educator guide with the Museum of Jewish Heritage, and we're building a brand new curriculum highlighting the culture and contributions of the Jewish community, because the history of the Jewish people extends far beyond the Holocaust. We've also partnered with the Office for the Prevention of Hate Crimes and a new hate crimes curriculum. We've expanded our anti-Semitism resources and workshops. Finally, let me just say this. At New York City Public Schools,
the New York City Public Schools, at the drop of a hat, created an entire hate crimes curriculum to combat the scourge of anti-Semitism. Seriously?
we are focused on our charge to fight hate and foster inclusion through safety, engagement, and education. We're working hard and we have a long way to go. There's always more to do. I hope in New York we can be a candle in the darkness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bank. Ms. Sylvestri, you are recognized for 5 minutes. Welcome.
Chairman Bean, Ranking Member Bonamici, and members of the subcommittee. Good morning. My name is Carla Sylvestri, and I'm the president of the Board of Education for Montgomery County Public Schools in Maryland. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today about our efforts to address anti-Semitism in our school system. Let me begin by assuring the committee, the Board of Education I lead is committed to combating anti-Semitism, hate speech, and racism wherever and whenever we see it. I can't tell you we've gotten it right every time, but as a board, we are committed to working with our administrators and our community to constantly improve our processes and our outcomes. Montgomery County Public Schools is the 15th largest school district in the country with 160,000 students and nearly 25,000 employees. We are one of the most diverse districts in the nation, and our families and students come from every major religion and ethnicity and speak over 162 languages at home. More than a third of our county residents are foreign-born. In Montgomery County, we have an elected part-time Board of Education with a governance and oversight role. The board sets the standard for achievement and accountability. Our core mission is
when you can't articulate to me what you actually disagree with, then that leads me to believe that you don't actually understand my position. So do you want to try specifying what you disagree with so that we have some semblance of whether or not you actually understand what my position is? Because I don't recognize you, and you could just be here to cause problems. So let me know. What do you actually disagree with?
education. This is the lens through which we approach our relationships with students, employees, and the community. This is the perspective I bring to today's hearing. I also bring the perspective of my history. When I was just 8, I came to this country to escape the violence stemming from Guatemala's civil war. I became a proud U.S. citizen in 2007 and went on to be elected to serve on the Board of Education by the citizens of Montgomery County. I'm also the parent of a student in our school system, and incidents of anti-Semitism and hate-based language are extremely important to me. With that in mind, I know the committee is aware of recent press reports and public complaints around anti-Semitic imagery, language, and vandalism in our district. Let me be clear. We do not shy away from imposing.
Oh, so you just so what you're telling me is that you haven't been paying attention. Okay. I mean, listen, again, I don't recognize you, so perhaps you need to spend some more time paying attention to primary source information rather than watching bullshit conservative clickbait content. Just a thought, or not, whichever, but yeah, like we deal in reality. We don't deal in conservative, like Zionist bullshit, you know? So
Consequences for hate-based behavior, including anti-Semitism. Our policy is to
I mean, listen, man, if you honestly think that making the demand to divest from Israel is anti-Semitism, I just don't know what to tell you, man. Why the fuck are we sending Israel so much money? Why is it mandated that colleges make investments in Israel? Why is it considered to be a hate crime to say maybe we shouldn't be sending Israel all that fucking money? And I just think that it's pretty clear to me that anyone who thinks that these college protests are about hating the Jews are quite frankly unhinged from reality, have not spent any of the time actually listening to the college protesters, probably just follow a bunch of Zionist fucking conservatives like the Daily Wire. I'm sure that Starseed, no offense, I'm sure you listen to the Daily Wire. I'm sure you listen to Dave Rubin. I'm sure you listen to every single person that has been selling you line of bullshit after line of bullshit. I know you sleep fine with your views, girl. I know, because you guys love being lied to. You guys fucking love it. You guys love being served up bullshit on a platter over and 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 over again. You love having your heroes to worship. You never question them. Whatever they say, regardless of whether or not they provide receipts for those things, you will lick it up with a spoon and you will enjoy every single minute of it. And I know you'll sleep just fine because you are unhinged from reality. But you got to own the libs, right? Got to own those libs. That's all that matters. Owning the libs.
Initiate an investigation each time the school system.
No, honey. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Do you want to know why? Because we have sat here for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. We never saw you in the chat, by the way. I haven't seen you in the chat at any of the streams I did, actually looking at primary source information about the college protests. Where were you? Where were you on the dozens of hours that we spent just literally watching what the college protesters were saying, what they were doing, what their demands were? Where were you? Oh, I know where you were. Hang on. I know where you were. You were on Twitter listening to Libs of TikTok and Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire and Dennis Prager and the ADL and all of the other people who were feeding you round and round and round and round and round of bullshit. That's where you were. And that's why you think what you do. Because you bought a political narrative.
Receives a complaint or we witness particular anti-Semitic, hate-filled, or racist language or actions. There are a range of consequences for teachers and staff, and if our investigation finds a staff member cannot uphold the employee code of conduct and support a safe learning environment for all students, they will.
Okay. Where did that happen? Receipts, please. Receipts, please. Do you want to talk about UCLA? Because at UCLA, I can show you video of Jewish counter-protesters attacking the pro-Palestine protesters by swinging boards at them. Were you just as offended at the Jewish people who showed up at UCLA and were swinging boards at the pro-Palestine protesters? Because I can show you receipts of that. And again, Starseed, I have to say that your one or two cherry-picked videos of things saying mean words to Jewish people that you didn't like is completely outweighed by the primary source evidence that we spent dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of hours watching, in which no one was hating on Jews at all. I can show you primary source videos of Jews holding Shabbat dinner at the Columbia encampment. I can show you primary source videos of Jews at the encampment celebrating Passover. Did you see any of that? Were those Jews hurt? I can show you an entire press conference from the Columbia University campus that was featuring nothing but Jewish students saying, well, this is not anti-Semitism. We're Jewish. This is not anti-Semitism. I can show you that. Did you ever see any of that? No, because the only people that you listen to, I guarantee this, are Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager and the Daily Wire and Libs of TikTok, and that's all you listen to. Yes, I take the Jews' word over you. Well, good thing, Starcy. Good thing that you don't ever need to take my word for anything, because literally the only thing we do on this channel is watch primary source video, bitch. So this isn't a case of pinky swear, trust me, bro. I have shown primary source video. So now what you're telling us is that you are an ignorant, uneducated cunt who is just having feelings in my chat because you're getting told words that you do not like. Because you're getting told that your influencers are lying to you. And by the way, I guarantee you that Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager and Libs of TikTok are not actually showing anywhere close to the video that I've been showing. So you can keep whining in my chat, girl, and I don't care if you're super chatting Joshua or not. That is a relationship between you and Joshua. What I do know is that you're over here saying, I don't trust you because you're not saying what my influencers want to say, and I want to believe in Ben Shapiro. Yeah, someone's big mad, Starseed, and that someone is you, because you're like, I believe in Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro would never lie to me. Dave Rubin would never lie to me. They would never lie. You're a liar. You hate the Jews. Now you're just lying. That's you, girl. That's you. We've never seen you in my chat before. Not recently for this. So we know what you have and have not seen. So you just coming in to say, I just disagree with you. There's nothing to disagree with when you're dealing with primary source evidence, Starseed. You either accept reality or you live in the fantasy land that's been created for you by Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin and Dennis Prager and Libs of TikTok. All of them are Jewish. So I'm sure they don't have any skin in the game at all to lie to you. Do you want to keep crying in my chat, Starseed? Do you want to keep going? Let's continue. Yeah. Primary source video evidence doesn't care about your Jewish feelings.
Not remain in Montgomery County Public Schools.
God.
Student discipline follows the student code of conduct and students' rights.
And I fucking hate that conservatives have turned me into this person. I fucking hate it. I fucking hate that conservatives have turned me into this person. Okay, no, honey, no. In fact, though, like, now I'm tired of you. So, because, Starseed, because now I know for sure that you do not have the IQ to comprehend primary source video evidence. You're going to get banned. You can go cry to Joshua all you want, and Joshua will be much better at smoothing your fragile sensibilities than I will. I'll tell you that right now. But because you are incapable of dealing with primary source video evidence, I know you're just not a good fit for my channel, Starseed. I know, like, you can go back to the fucking Daily Wire because you're not going to hang out here. Goodbye. Go away. There we go. God damn it. I fucking hate this, though. I sincerely hate that they have made me this person. I never cared about Israel in my life until conservative Zionists just lied and 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 lied over and over again. And it really pisses me off. If conservative Zionists would just stop fucking lying to people, then this conversation wouldn't be happening right now. If conservative Zionists would actually show people what's going on and actually explain to people what's going on and actually deal in primary source evidence, none of this would be necessary. But no, conservative Zionists, again, have distracted from every issue that actually impacts real people in the goddamn world by calling every fucking thing anti-Semitic when it's not. Conservative Zionists are shilling political narratives that anyone that doesn't have a full-throated support of Israel is a fucking leftist, which provably is not true, and it's not even very hard to prove that it's like not true. It's so fucking stupid. I have never cared if someone was Jewish in my life. I have never cared about Israel in my fucking life up until the past several months. And the only reason I care today is because the people supporting Israel have provably lied repeatedly over and over and over again, while they're all demanding that we send Israel billions of dollars of our taxpayer money. They're no different than the woke left. Conservative Zionists are no different than the woke left. They play the victim card just like the woke left does. They call everyone that says something they disagree with an anti-Semite just like the woke left does. They're completely unhinged from reality. Like, they are absolutely no different. Anyway, I'm going to stop ranting now because we have blocked the problem out of our chat. She will not be back. She can go whine to Joshua all she likes. Let's get back to what we're actually here to do.
Responsibilities. We are taking affirmative steps to address anti-Semitism and other forms of hate. First, in the past year, we revised policies and procedures to strengthen our response to anti-Semitism, hate, and racist behavior. Second, we have put in place a clear reporting process and training for school leaders and staff.
Exactly,
We're empowering
Milo.
students and families to report incidents of harassment so that we can take action. Third, we're working to prevent anti-Semitic incidents from happening in the first place through education. We enhanced the curriculum throughout K-12 to expand on topics related to the Jewish experience. Fourth, we are strengthening our relationships and partnerships with our community. We participated in listening sessions in synagogues, and this year, 12 community organizations joined us to form a hate bias advisory group to support our collective effort to address hate-based speech and incidents, including anti-Semitism. Fifth, starting this summer, we will have mandatory hate-based...
I mean, I have Jewish friends who think this is all stupid. I have Jewish friends who completely understand what the problem is. And guess what? Those Jewish friends who understand what the problem is, like, I don't hear this shit from them. So it's not as though this applies to like every single Jewish person in the world, because it doesn't. And like, you can look at some Jews, like the fucking Orthodox Jewish community aren't Zionists. And so it's like, you know what? I'm not talking about every single Jew in the world. I'm saying the Zionist pains in the asses who are lying to get us to send money to fucking Israel. And who, by the way, they're trying to get us into a war with Iran. Everyone understands that, right? They're literally trying to get us into a war with Iran, but we're supposed to just sit back and say, okay, let's just go to war because Israel asked us to. Why not? It's all right. We're totally anti-Semitic if we don't. Yeah, I got to work on that. It's true.
Training for all staff. In closing, anti-Semitism has no place in Montgomery County Public Schools. The suffering caused by anti-Semitism, hate, and racism interferes with students' learning and well-being. I want to do everything in my power to make sure all students can pursue their education without worrying about anti-Semitic, racist, or hate-filled threats. We will continue to evaluate our policies and our actions to ensure all students and families, every single one of them, feel safe, valued, and welcome in our school system. I welcome the opportunity to continue this important discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sylvestri. Well done. Mr. Sykes, welcome to the committee. You are recognized.
Thank you. Chairwoman Fox, Ranking Member Scott, Subcommittee Chair Bean, Subcommittee Ranking Member Bonamici, and members of the subcommittee. On behalf of the ACLU, thank you for the privilege of testifying today. I want to start by acknowledging that today's topic, confronting anti-Semitism is a gravely important one. By many accounts, anti-Semitic incidents have been more common in recent years, and Jewish colleagues and friends have been struggling. I'm close with a law school dean and a New York City public high school principal, both Jewish, who understand full well the impact of anti-Semitism. But these Jewish school leaders are themselves being accused of anti-Semitism, or at least failing to do enough to stop anti-Semitism in their school communities. They are truly in unenviable positions. These are deeply complicated and confusing times. But I've been invited here not to opine on anti-Semitism.
Well, ironically, and listen, I'm not on Team ACLU in any way, shape, or form, but ironically, the ACLU guy might actually be the most common sense person we hear from today. We'll see.
Nor to condemn or defend my fellow witnesses. Rather, I'd like to use my time to make 3 key points. First, I'll briefly describe the First Amendment and its key principles. Second, I'll describe how the First Amendment applies in schools. Third, I'll suggest more productive ways to deal with controversial speech.
That's a good idea.
The text of the First Amendment is short, so I'll just read it. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. As you no doubt noticed, the very first word of the First Amendment is Congress. You all are the stars of the show. The First Amendment is primarily about restricting the government's authority related to 5 related freedoms: religion, speech, the press, assembly, and the right to petition. Without government action, the First Amendment does not apply. This is why the First Amendment applies in public schools, but generally not in private ones. Bert Newborn, a legendary figure at the ACLU, has described the poetry behind the ordering of the 5 freedoms protected by the First Amendment. First, the government cannot regulate your religion. That is what you believe, your thoughts, your ideas, and your faith. Second, the government cannot abridge the freedom of speech. Now you've gone from having an idea to communicating that idea to others around you. Third, the government cannot abridge the freedom of the press. Now you've gone from an idea to speaking that idea to those who are within earshot, to using the press, which really means publishing or otherwise disseminating ideas to a wider audience. Fourth is the right of the people peaceably to assemble. Now you're not just thinking something or saying something or writing and publishing something. Now you're gathering and mobilizing people around this idea because people like to feel solidarity and share physical and digital space.
Solidarity.
Fifth is the right to petition the government.
Socialist.
This means that you have the right not only to have an idea, not only to speak that idea or to publish that idea, and not—
Did he just say, hang on, did he just say that the First Amendment protects your right to be in solidarity? He's not wrong, but like the socialist interpretation of the First Amendment is kind of bothering me.
not only to galvanize people around this idea, but you have the right to bring that idea to the seat of power, to redress grievances. The First Amendment, looking closely at the text, can be read as facilitating the journey from an idea to a movement. But notwithstanding the strong protections of the First Amendment, not all speech is protected. True threats, fighting words, incitement, and obscenity are categories of unprotected speech that we allow the government more leeway in regulating. So what does all this mean in the K-12 context? The Supreme Court has famously said that students and teachers do not lose their First Amendment rights at the schoolhouse gate. But the court has also recognized that public schools necessarily have more authority to regulate speech at school than the government would normally have in other contexts. The government can regulate official school content like curriculum as long as its decisions are reasonably related to a legitimate educational purpose. But authorities may punish student speech only if it will lead to substantial disruption within the school environment. Outside school, student speech is fully protected by the First Amendment. The First Amendment also protects the right to access information, including students' right to access information through school library shelves. Despite this, school board officials, lawmakers, and others across the country have recently stepped up efforts to ban books from circulation in libraries.
Ding!
Government employees at work are generally not protected by the First Amendment, but teachers do maintain their First Amendment rights when they are outside of school, just like students. Parents also have an important role to play in K-12 schools. Families may have the right to opt their child out of select teachings, but no family has the right to control what all children are allowed to learn, including content about racism, sexuality, and gender expression. Finally, I hope we can remember that when exposed to more speech and more information, we can and do change our minds. I submit that between throwing up our hands and saying there's nothing we can do to address controversial speech and excommunicating people because of what they have said or thought are all the good ideas for how schools and communities can heal and grow together. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sykes. And Ms. Ford Morthell, you are recognized. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. Chairman Bean, Ranking Member Bonamici, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for asking me to participate in this critical conversation about anti-Semitism in K-12 schools. I hope to share the ongoing work we are doing in Berkeley Unified to oppose anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and all forms of hate, and to provide every student safe, welcoming, and humanizing classrooms during these challenging times. My name is Enikia Ford Morthell, and I'm the superintendent of Berkeley Unified School District. I am honored to be the steward of the district's powerful mission to enable and inspire our diverse student body to achieve academic excellence and make positive contributions to the world. I grew up in Inglewood, California, and witnessed how naturally brilliant and curious Black and brown children, thirsty for engagement, were trapped by narratives that left them misunderstood and often ignored. These experiences formed the roots of my belief that schools must nurture the heart, soul, purpose, and intellect of each child. In Berkeley Unified, we work to ensure that each and every child is seen, valued, and educated. We embrace this work every day, and it's what called me to do this work in this district. Berkeley is a small, diverse urban school district serving around 9,100 students in our 11 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, and 2 high schools. Many know that I often describe our students as our babies. As young as 4, they are all someone's baby, their most prized creation. It is a privilege and an awesome responsibility to serve them. Public schools reflect the values and aspirations of their local communities. Berkeley is no different. Our history of activism, social justice, diversity, and inclusion is alive and well today. And we recognize the need to teach students to express themselves with respect and compassion. This is why we passed a policy against hate speech last year. True equity and inclusion requires deep listening, ongoing reflection, engagement, and continuous learning. As I've engaged members of our Jewish community, some have shared painful experiences of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitic incidents in our schools are never acceptable, and they are not who we are. The conflict in the Middle East has directly impacted our schools. Students and staff have family and friends who died or were kidnapped during the October 7th Hamas attack, and many have deep concern for what is happening in Israel. Berkeley-born Israeli-American Hirsch Goldberg Poland was kidnapped on October 7th. Members of our community wear tape on their shirts with the number of days he and other hostages have been held captive. Today is day 214. Other Berkeley students and staff have family and friends who have died, been injured, are missing, or are living under horrific conditions in Gaza. Most heartbreakingly, in both Israel and Gaza, the death and suffering includes children. As educators, too often we are called upon to address heart-wrenching events that occur far beyond the walls of our classrooms. Our young students with ties to either Israel or Gaza, some deeply traumatized by the horror they see and hear, sit side by side in our Berkeley classrooms. They are friends. We work hard to make sure they are all seen and all safe. Our babies sometimes say hurtful things. We are mindful that all kids make mistakes. We know that our staff are not immune to missteps either, and we don't ignore them when they occur. When the days of October 7th, we began providing resources to our families and our educators about how to support our children and each other. Since October 7th, the district has had formal complaints alleging anti-Semitism arising from 9 incidents within our jurisdiction. However, anti-Semitism is not pervasive in Berkeley Unified School District. When investigations show that an anti-Semitic event has occurred, we take action to teach, correct, and redirect our students. We do not publicly share our actions because student information is private and legally protected under federal and state law. As a result, some believe we do nothing. This is not true. Likewise, when an investigation shows that one of our educators has crossed the line, we take appropriate action. In California, personnel actions are also private and legally protected, so non-disclosure can again be confused with an action. We work proactively to cultivate respect, understanding, and love in our diverse district, modeling how to uplift and honor each individual that makes up the beautiful fabrics of our schools. This month, for the third year, we're celebrating Jewish American Heritage Month. We are a community with differing, deeply held beliefs in this challenging moment, and it is and can be uncomfortable. As I speak to you right now, our families are packing school lunches, students are heading to bus stops, and educators are turning on classroom lights. Soon, the bells will ring, and our students will begin learning side by side. I look forward to this conversation this morning, but I also look forward to getting back to them, our babies, to do and continue to do the work that needs to be done in Berkeley. Thank you.
Ms. Ford Morthell, thank you very much. Under Committee Rule 9, we will now question witnesses under the 5-minute rule. Put the clock on, Bean, because I'm going to begin right now with some opening yes or no questions to our school district leaders. Mr. Banks, does Israel have the right to exist as a Jewish state?
Absolutely.
Ms. Sylvestri?
Yes.
Ms. Ford Morthell? Is the phrase "from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," is that anti-Semitic?
I think most Jewish people experience that as anti-Semitic, and as
Oh
such,
my
it is
God.
not allowed in our schools.
You would say it is.
I would say it's
How,
anti-Semitic.
how are we defining anti-Semitic? How do we actually have a definition of anti-Semitic? And are you really telling me that the chancellor of the New York City Public Schools is the person that gets to excuse me, the chancellor of the New York City Public Schools is saying that Jewish people are the sole arbiters of what is and is not anti-Semitic? So if a Jewish person is offended by language, then that is going to result in that language being banned in New York City public schools. Are you shitting me?
Sylvestri.
It is if the intent is the destruction of the Jewish people, yes.
And it is. And so I would say I'd put you down as a yes. You're okay with that? A
Oh
yes?
my God. Did you hear that? That congressman was just like, I am the sole arbiter of if this phrase means the destruction of the Jewish people. It is obviously this. I mean, my God, bro.
Yes.
Ms. Ford Morthell. It's a yes or you can just go yes or no.
It is if it is calling for the elimination of the Jewish people in Israel. And I will also say that I recognize that it does have different meaning to different members of
I'm
our
going to go
community.
yes. I'll
Thank
put you
you.
down yes. I got a boogie because 5 minutes goes by so fast. Were Hamas actions on October 7th, was that a terrorist attack, Mr.
Oh
Banks?
my God.
Absolutely.
Who is
Ms.
this
Sylvestri.
guy?
Yes.
Ms. Ford Morthell.
Yes.
Is terrorism ever justified? Mr. Banks.
I don't think so. Not terrorism, no.
Ms.
No.
Sylvestri. Ms. Ford Morthell.
I would agree now.
Congratulations. Y'all all have, y'all from Florida, y'all have all done a remarkable
Oh,
job
he's from
testifying.
Florida.
But just
He's
like
from
some
Florida.
college
Of
presidents
course he's
before
from
you that
Florida.
sat in the very same seats, they also, in many instances, said the right thing. But then we watched the TV monitors, and America watched the monitors of their campuses on fire with hatred, really reversing everything they said that they're protecting students and when they were really not. This morning, I attended a gathering, a press conference, just a chance for students and teachers and parents in your school districts that have said nothing is being done, some really horrible things. We've gotten reports in your school districts across America, over 246 very vile anti-Semitic acts that have happened. So, Mr. Banks.
Sure.
What are you doing with teachers that are teaching hate? Have you fired any? Have you gotten rid of any? What are your actions say that you, because you're a man that has his basis in school safety, and you've said that earlier,
Absolutely.
but have you fired teachers
Yeah,
that are
and
teaching this?
Anyone that would suggest, I can't speak for my colleagues, but anyone who would suggest that we haven't done anything, that is certainly not correct. We have done quite a bit. Again, you have to remember, this is a very large system. And when incidents arise, we investigate every single one of them. We take them very, very seriously. We have taken a wide range of disciplinary actions on all of these issues. And so
Have students been fired, expelled?
We don't fire students.
Yeah, I stand corrected.
But we have given appropriate discipline. I said in my opening testimony, wide range of students who have been suspended from school. We have taken action against employees. We have terminated people as well.
You have terminated people.
Absolutely.
Mr. Banks, thank you so much. Ms. Sylvestri, I met with one of your students this morning who, it's one thing, bullies exist, but this student has said, but for being Jewish, why I was suffered physical harm. Have you expelled students and teachers?
In terms of speaking first about teachers, we have taken action in some cases. We put them
You've
in
gotten rid of teachers. You said, they don't belong in Montgomery County schools. You're teaching hatred and we're going to get rid of you. Has that happened?
We have taken disciplinary action, yes.
Have you fired anybody?
No.
So you allow them to continue to teach hate. One of the people
Wow.
in this, at this meeting
This
I
guy's
gathered was one of your
insufferable.
teachers who is Jewish, who is scared for her life and has suffered greatly because she is reporting anti-Semitism on your campus in one of your schools, yet she's the one that's suffering. Are you aware of this?
I don't have all the details of that case, but retaliation against teachers is not acceptable in our school district.
So you haven't fired anybody. Do you think people need to be fired if they're teaching hatred and letting people?
Absolutely. As a part of our process, the teachers that have been disciplined know that if this happens ever again, there will be deeper consequences up to and including termination.
You're going to have to face these people, and I'm telling you, they're fired up and they have stories that are heartbreaking. It's hard enough to go to school as a kid without suffering. It's just a shame. And I think we're better than this as a nation. It's time to all stand together. I've got so many questions, and I will now yield to Ranking Member Bonamici for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you to the witnesses. As I stated in my opening statement, there's a need to balance the civil rights of students to be free from discrimination under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act with the First Amendment right to free speech and expression. I want to reiterate that we must stand together against anti-Semitism and do more to combat the harassment of Jewish students. And first and foremost, we must support the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights. OCR is the primary office for investigating and intervening in Title VI violations, and that's true both in K-12 schools and on college campuses. But OCR continues to investigate a record number of incidences of discrimination and hate, receiving more than 19,000 complaints in 2023. 2024, the office has already seen about a 26% increase in complaints. Now, despite those challenges in increasing cases, OCR has only half the staff that it had when it was established 45 years ago. So half the staff, but an increase in the significant increase in the number of cases. So there's no question that more resources are needed to hire additional staff and increase the capacity of the office to fulfill its mission. Unfortunately, the Appropriations Committee majority has proposed a 25% cut to the program for fiscal year 2024. We can't cut a program when there's increased need and there's already only half the staff it had 45 years ago. Well, thankfully, this cut was not enacted, but as other members of this committee would agree, maintaining funding at the current level is still not enough, given the volume of discriminatory instances in our nation's schools. So I'm going to start with a question for Chancellor Banks.
Yes.
What steps has your school system taken to address anti-Semitism proactively before it becomes a problem? For example, can you tell us more about your Meeting the Moment plan and the ways it addresses safety, education, and engagement?
Hang on. Is there anyone that I would that like are okay? This is only for supporters in my community that I would know. No offense to any new people. No offense to people who aren't supporters. Is there anyone here that would like to be added to the group Twitter chat? Let me know if you're not in it already. Jan, I just added you. So let me know if anyone else wants to be added. But only people I know and who have proven yourself. And I'm sorry if I say no to you, then just hang around a little bit more and you might get added eventually, but you got to prove yourself to me. The people who are in this Twitter chat have been with me a long time, okay?
Yeah, so first
Yeah,
of all,
Yasmin, I'll add
as
you.
we
Alex,
talk
I'll
about
add you.
safety, because we really start with that, and that
Alex, what is your
is
Twitter
reinforced
handle?
by the fact that we take action in every single one of these cases. Whenever an issue is brought to our attention, I can't state that I can prevent every incident from ever happening. But our role as leaders are to make sure that once it is brought to our attention,
Thank you.
that we respond
Joshua,
in
what's
an
your Twitter
appropriate
handle?
fashion. And that is what we have been doing. Since this time, we've had 281 incidents since October 7th. Approximately 42% were anti-Semitic and 30% were
Casmar, I'll add
Islamophobic.
you.
And so this is an issue that ranges on both sides. We take every single one of those very, very seriously. We investigate, and then we initiate the appropriate level of conduct. I've got this is our student code of conduct. It's a more than 40 plus
Worms
page
Poop, what is your Twitter
document
handle?
that's been developed over many, many years. We certainly would seek to enter this into evidence
Dragon Tail, I'll add
put
you.
this on the record for this committee. But
I
there
ask
are,
that that be admitted into the record.
Without
Please.
objection.
Thank you. And so there are a wide range of disciplinary processes that we take place. But we also have to follow a process of due process. Our teachers are represented by unions. They have rights, and we engage them in that process.
Thank you. And I do want to get to the other witnesses,
Sure.
but thank you so much. And I know you've all expressed a desire to work with outside groups to address anti-Semitism in your school district. So both,
Hang on, we got a super chat coming in from Tayton. Let's see. Tayton, you know what would be nice if one of these people in Congress said perhaps we should abolish the Department of Education. It would be nice. It would be. It would be. Indeed. I agree. No, Autumn, you're not being added. No socialists allowed in the private Twitter chat.
Ms. Sylvestri and Ms. Ford Morthel, what is your approach? How do you anticipate that it will help prevent issues of and instances of anti-Semitism? If we start with Ms. Sylvestri and then Ms. Ford Morthel.
Our partnerships with our community organizations bring expertise, cultural expertise that maybe some of our school leaders do not have. And so they help enhance the work that we do with our, in this case, a hate bias action plan. We have 12 different community groups from various perspectives to help us get it right.
Trendlin.
We want to get it right, and these community groups will help us do that.
Thank you. And Ms. Ford Morthel.
Thank you. I would agree with Ms. Sylvestri that it is both bringing expertise, but it's also bringing what I think is really important, the opportunity to really listen and learn and understand different perspectives
If I
and
missed you, let me know.
That's something that we do in Berkeley that we really value, and we do believe in the value of collective coming in and sharing different ideas, perspectives, and different ways to address issues. And so we truly believe that not just the expertise and sharing of experiences, but the collaboration and bringing together of different minds and hearts will lead us to the best ways to address
I'm
it.
almost out of time, but in my remaining 35 seconds, Mr. Sykes, if you could just summarize, what is the interplay between Title VI of the Civil Rights Act and the First Amendment in schools?
Sure, thank you. The schools must act when
Yeah,
there is a hostile educational environment under Title VI.
We see
And that
you,
means there's
Natalie.
unwelcome conduct based on a protected characteristic that's subjectively or objectively offensive and so severe or pervasive that it limits or denies a person's ability to participate in or benefit from an educational program. So the law is clear that the schools must act in those situations, notwithstanding the Tinker test that we described before.
And do you agree that we need funding to do that?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you very much, Ranking Member. We now go to the great state of Utah. Mr. Burgess, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for witnesses being here today. It's one thing to hear about the bigoted behavior present on today's college campuses. It's utterly appalling to hear the activist teachers that are doing the same in our classrooms, spreading the vitriol of hate to our children in classrooms throughout our nation. Unfortunately, and all too often, these carriers of hate are teachers and school administrators. And this is going down to our kids that's supposed to be teaching. Children as young as 2nd grade are being taught to hate Jews.
How?
Question is, how did this come about?
I
Ms.
still
Banks,
haven't
have a
seen
quick question.
receipts.
Sure.
In the press release shortly after the events of Hillcrest High School, where students stormed the building demanding a teacher's resignation and attempted to enter the teacher's room, where she said, you said, this notion that this place, these kids are radicalized and anti-Semitic is the height of irresponsibility. Do you think that these kids were not radicalized Do you stand by that statement?
First of all, let me say this. Hillcrest High School is the school that I graduated from, so that school is very
No, yeah,
personal
no,
to
I'm
me.
sorry, I only have a few minutes.
Right.
This statement, do you
Right.
still stand by this statement?
My statement at that time was that, yes, I stand by that statement. The entire school was not radicalized. Yes.
All right, so if this was a black teacher, and these were kids coming in because of her skin, because of her background, hiding out for 2 hours in a classroom, these are high school kids.
I know that.
Would you still say that this is not radicalized? There's something wrong with this?
Those kids engaged, the kids who were responsible, who led that effort, engaged clearly in an act of
Okay,
anti-Semitism.
so I'm really,
and
I
I
have to cut
dealt
to the
with that
case.
and
I have to cut to
responded
the
to
case.
it.
My question is, if this is a black teacher being threatened and pushed by some white bigots, would you still say that
Yo.
these kids are not a problem?
This is an extremely true statement. Conservatives would justify some pretty fucked up shit just to own the libs. And progressives are really good at making them look incompetent. I completely agree with you. The number one conservative priority is not fixing the problem because they don't even know what the problem is. It's certainly not protecting their own children because most of the time they don't even care what's going on in schools. They don't even look at it. The number one conservative priority is owning the libs and doing whatever they need to say to own the libs, doing whatever reactionary thing they need to do to own the libs. It's not about having principles. It's not about having ethical integrity. It's not about, being committed to an idea. It's not even about Christianity because most of them who claim to be Christian do not act like Christians at all. Their number one priority in life is owning the libs.
It's not being radicalized by
No,
hatred?
if it was a black teacher that was being targeted, absolutely unacceptable, and this was unacceptable. And
Okay,
we
so let me
absolutely
ask you
took
this.
action,
Were there
including
any,
removing the principal of the
I'm
school.
sorry, were there any consequences? I mean, I'm hearing nice words.
He just said he removed.
really
Oh
nice
my
words
God.
here,
Oh
teaching,
my God. Oh my God. The guy literally just said, if Burgess Owens had actually been listening to him, the guy was like, it was inappropriate and we removed the principal of the school. He literally said, we removed the principal of the school. And then the very next question is, were there any consequences? Bro, he literally just said they removed the principal of the school.
directing. What I'm missing is discipline.
I hate
and I'm missing the
everyone and
word
everything.
fired. Has anything happened to these kids that did this to this teacher's hiding out for 2 hours?
Well, I'm not sure if you heard clearly from what I said. What I said was very clear. We suspended a number of students who were the leaders at Hillcrest High School,
for
number
him.
one. Number two, we removed the principal of that
Good for
school
him.
for lack of
Exactly. He
leadership
just
and
said it.
oversight. I don't know how to
Burgess
make it
Owens
much
wasn't listening
clearer.
to it.
Okay.
I condemn clearly what happened at Hillcrest was a complete act of anti-Semitism. It will not stand on my watch. We responded,
Okay.
and I don't know how to make it any
Well,
clearer.
no,
sir.
thank you so much. I'm glad to hear somebody was fired in that. Was the principal fired or just transferred to another school?
The principal was removed from the school.
Was he taken to another school or was he
He's
fired?
not in another school. No, he's not in front of any more children.
Okay. Ms. Marthel, the Brandeis Center has reported at most misguided administrators have attempted to resolve problems involving teachers by
Well,
moving students, Jewish students.
Yeah, this is another really good point. Now when someone who's actually anti-Semitic shows up, no one will be able to say anything because they have abused the word so that it doesn't mean anything. It's exactly like with groomer. They called every single person who disagreed with them, every single person who didn't want to ban books, a groomer. And so now the word groomer means absolutely nothing. So when actual legitimate grooming happens, no one cares because they overuse the word to make it meaningless. It's exactly with racism. When legitimate racism happens, it now means nothing. And that actually does still exist, but it means nothing because the left overused the term racist so that it means nothing. It's like these people are their own goddamn worst enemy. And transphobic too. Exactly. Means nothing.
And Israeli students into new classes. As a result, anti-Semitism is normalized. Quick question: how does this work? So you find teachers that are bigots, and instead of firing them, you transfer them to another school where they can still remain bigots. Is that the way this works?
I'm a little confused by the question. You started with students being moved and then you went to teachers being moved. I'll tell you that it's not something that we normalize. It's not something that we agree with, and we take action every time there's any concern or
I'm running,
complaint.
yeah, I'm
we
running.
investigate and
I'm
take
just trying
action.
to understand how this works. When you have teachers that are teaching hate to our kids and showing it, and our students are feeling fearful for this, are they fired or do they just transfer to another school? It appears that they're just moving to another place. In this case here, yeah, I guess that's the question I have. How is this being resolved?
If we have a concern or a complaint about anti-Semitism or any form of hate, we take it very seriously. We investigate and we take action pending the outcome of that investigation.
Okay, all right. So I guess the action is not firing. It's just moving to someplace. The word of action is very subjective, obviously. Mr. Sylvestri, real quickly, there's been several complaints filed by the Department of Education of Civil Rights. And again, what resulted in one administrative leave and the 3 others merely being transferred. I'm going to ask you the same questions. How is this working out? Or do we have a process in which you can actually get bad teachers out of the classroom, bad administrators that are teaching our kids to hate like this? Are we addressing that at all?
In all of those cases, the teachers were put on leave so that we could do a thorough investigation. Disciplinary
long does it
action
take?
was taken.
I hate all of these people. This
I
is
guess I'm
so
just concerned.
stupid.
We want results. We want discipline.
paying for all
We
of
see what's
this.
happening to our kids, and we've not taken out the cancer, which is these teachers coming in, administrators that's pushing down their hate. Every day in these classrooms is a bad day for our kids. So are we getting rid of any of these people? Or just taking action, other actions?
Disciplinary action has been taken on all of those cases.
Okay,
and
but they're not being fired.
They understand any other further action will lead to up to determination.
Okay,
Representative
all right, thank
Owens, Representative Owens, thank you very much. Let's go to the great Northern Mariana Islands where Mr. Sablan is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to our witnesses. Welcome. This is a really difficult issue.
It's not actually. You're all making it up.
And it's an issue difficult for me also because it has happened in my district in the past, but in my observation, and I visit schools very frequently on almost every trip I take home, I don't see that existing in our schools. And there is a diversity of different ethnicities, different people. I'm not sure why. There may be something in there. There's got to be. There is bullying I'm aware of. I have 2 teachers in my family. There is bullying.
Is he gonna cry?
I'm
For
not
real?
sure about
For realsies?
anti-Semitism or Islamophobia.
Oh
There
my
must be,
God.
but it's not obvious. So but I need to ask a question of Mr. Sykes for starters. May I, sir? As you know, institutions that are owned or acting on behalf of the government, the state, such as K-12 schools, must respect constitutional free speech of individuals, but that does not mean
When I wrote my last book, Actively Unwoke, the whole introduction to the book is called You Are Not a Racist. And it talks about all of the crazy ways in which the left has called people racist. And it says over and over and over again, you're not a racist. It doesn't really matter if they say you are. You're not a racist. I've been thinking about, I need to rewrite the introduction of the book and maybe just like put it on my Substack. But like the new introduction to the book is going to be, you are not an anti-Semite. And it doesn't matter what the Republicans say. It doesn't matter what the Democrats say. If you don't believe that we should be giving $30 billion to Israel so that they can genocide the Palestinians, you are not an anti-Semite. If you don't believe that colleges should be investing in Israel, you are not an anti-Semite. If you support free speech, even if it offends the Jewish person who lives next door to you, you are not an anti-Semite. Unless you legitimately hate and want to wipe out all Jewish people from the world, then you are not a fucking anti-Semite. If you don't believe in any foreign aid going to Israel at all, you are not an anti-Semite. If you don't think that Israel doesn't have a right to exist because you don't think any country has a right to exist, which is actually my position, I don't think any country has a right to exist, you're not an anti-Semite. If you say something that the ADL doesn't like, you are not an anti-Semite. If you say something that offends Ben Shapiro's fragile sensibilities, you are not an anti-Semite. If you say that Palestinian women and children shouldn't be murdered, you are not an anti-Semite.
In that such schools must allow their campuses
Yo, Truson.
to become institutions where
True.
hate speech is pervasive. So given the First Amendment speech protections, how can a public school work to make its campus a welcome space to all students in the face of incidents of hate speech of any kind on campus generally?
I need another beer. Cheers.
Thank you. As the only non-educator on the panel, I'll do my best to answer, but I think the work of creating an inclusive environment where students feel free to express themselves and to learn and grow
We're going to go with
happens long
lavender
before
lemon.
any of these particular incidents. I think it's a part of establishing a school community that is accepting and welcoming. As I said, we at the ACLU believe strongly in the importance of protecting the free speech rights of students, of teachers, and of parents, but those are not unlimited. And as I mentioned, Title VI says that the schools must act when there's a hostile educational environment. If I can just respond to the previous questions, it doesn't say that someone must be fired. I think we need to think a little bit more creatively about how we can respond to anti-Semitism and
Probably
root
a
out
good
this
idea.
idea.
I don't want anyone fired, sir.
Firing may be appropriate in certain circumstances, but I think we need to think about how we can address
That's delightful.
anti-Semitism, change hearts and minds, make children safe without only looking to the most punitive tool in our toolbox.
Yep, slime dropped.
I yield my
slime.
remaining time to Ms. Manning.
New slime.
Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Sablam. First, I want to thank you all for your testimony and your condemnation of anti-Semitism and the steps you are taking.
Stunning
As
and
we all
brave.
know, we are facing
Stunning
a particularly difficult
and
time for Jewish
brave.
students and their parents. I've talked with Jewish students in my district who are experiencing anti-Semitism in North Carolina. This is traumatizing kids. It's distressing parents. It's putting pressure on teachers and principals and superintendents. And I feel strongly that this can be a powerful teaching moment. This is the time when schools should do what we expect them to do. They should teach. They should teach the facts. They should teach understanding. They should teach empathy, and they should teach critical thinking skills. Yet many teachers are struggling to figure out how to handle the different kinds of anti-Semitism that's going on, not only to teach the Holocaust, but also in discussing what's going on in the Middle East. And sadly, some teachers are simply getting the facts wrong, and they're adding to the distress of students and parents. So I'd like to start, and I'm gonna have to pick up when my time picks up later. If each of you could describe what resources are your teachers using to navigate the difficult questions about anti-Semitism or the Israel-Gaza conflict. And Mr. Banks, let's start with you.
I know we only have a short amount of time, but this is where we engage our partners. I'm joined today by Devorah Halberstam, who's here, whose son Ari was killed in one of the most heinous acts of anti-Semitism almost 30 years ago. And she created the Jewish Children's Museum to teach the history. I've sent thousands of students to this museum, and we were going to continue to send even more. Joined by Michael Cohen from the Simon Wiesenthal Museum of Tolerance. They're in our schools. They've gone to Hillcrest and are engaged in this process. So we're trying to avoid just casting aspersions. We are trying to lean in to how you teach. That's how you will solve for anti-Semitism.
Thank you. This time has expired. I'll be back later. Thank you so much.
Let's go to the great state of Michigan, where Representative McLean is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just have to make one comment, Mr. Sykes. Therein lies the problem. Your ability to tolerate this behavior is completely unacceptable. And sometimes you do need to use the stick because disincentives work. So with that, I was just appalled by that answer. But at any rate,
God.
Mr. Banks, I appreciate your passion. I love it.
God.
It is so refreshing to see. I'm going to ask a couple questions. I think they're really
These people have never been so committed to anything in their lives as they are to sucking the dick of Israel. I hope everyone understands, right? This shit is creating more anti-Semitism. This shit is what is making people hate Israel. I'll rewind that. We can go back and watch that whole thing again. Because that guy was like being actually reasonable. And she's like, that is not fucking good enough. Hang on. Where did that start? Started with Mr. Sykes, not Mr. Banks. Where's Mr. Sykes? What did Mr. Sykes actually say that was so offensive? Let's listen again if we can get back. This person apparently making it. Okay, hang on. I don't know where this started.
Your condemnation of anti-Semitism and the steps you are taking. Your students experiencing kids, principals,
Hang
power
on.
them
I'm
to
gonna find it.
but also of when
We're not listening to this whole
what
speech.
resources are your teachers using? The
time.
That's
Who's-
Mr.
Michael
Banks.
Let's go to the great state of Michigan, where Representative McLean is recognized for.
So it's basically like it was from even before where so basically what happened is the ACLU guy, and correct me if I'm wrong, the ACLU guy was like, maybe we should find other solutions to these problems that aren't firing people. Maybe we should try other things instead of just going directly to firing people. And the Congresswoman was like, I can't believe that you would suggest not immediately using the stick to fire people. It's like, bro, come on. Thank you, Kazmar. I appreciate you.
5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just have to make one comment, Mr. Sykes. Therein lies the problem. Your ability to tolerate this behavior is completely unacceptable.
You are
And sometimes
unacceptable.
you do need to use the stick because disincentives work. So with that, I was just appalled by that answer. But at any rate, Mr. Banks, I appreciate your passion. I love it. It is so refreshing to see. I'm going to ask a couple questions. I think they're really simple. But then I want to move to outcomes and what we can do to actually make change, because I think you said something very insightful. We need to get to the root of the problem and change the curriculum and change how we teach. Right?
Oh, yeah, that's going to
So,
solve everything.
I'm assuming you're going to agree with me, but let me just, death to Israel, is that anti-Semitic?
Of course it is.
Of course. Kill the Jews, anti-Semitic?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Drawing swastikas or mimicking, is that anti-Semitic?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Hate
of
crime in
course.
New York. Yes.
Of course. All of these activities are anti-Semitic.
I hate
Vandalism
everyone.
of school property, right? Rioting. We agree on that, right? And we talk about taking action, right? And action is a vague term. So let's move from actions to outcomes, because sometimes when we take action, we don't get the desired outcome we appreciate or we want,
Sure.
right? So let's take a look at what actions you have taken and what has been the result of reducing the anti-Semitism in your schools.
Let me give you an example. An example of what was raised was Hillcrest High School, very passionately brought up. My alma mater that I went to, where a Jewish teacher was targeted in a frightening episode.
Mhm.
We didn't accept that. We pushed back on that tremendously.
So can you give me an example of pushback? Because to me, pushback is that those people are dealt with swiftly. But what's your definition of pushback?
But in terms of outcomes, what I meant was we suspended students, we removed the principal of the school, we engaged the Simon Wiesenthal Center for a deeper dive in education of those kids. The teacher who was targeted made a decision, I think one of the most heroic things I've ever heard, to actually come back. She could have gone to another school. She made a decision to say, if I'm
So
going to change this.
you fired the people. You fired
Yes, we move people, absolutely. And the outcome is that what's happening at that school now has transformed in significant ways. We're not fully arrived. This is a work in progress.
I get it. What have you done to change your curriculum?
Yeah, so we have engaged in a wide range of new resource guides, teaching about anti-Semitism, teaching
And
about
what
the
are
whole,
those resource guides?
excuse me?
What are those resource guides?
We're working together with the Museum of Jewish History
Okay.
in New York City, who's helping us to create an
I would
educated guide
offer
for
one,
teachers.
I would offer one solution as well, because a lot of times we come up here and we just talk about problems. One solution is Morris Life does a really good job of teaching anti-Semitism and really ruling out hate around the Holocaust and whatnot. I think where everyone gets frustrated is we use these words like pushback, and I think we have to have a real clear definition of, if X happens, if you vandalize school property, if you perform anti-Semitic acts, that here is a clear policy that will be dealt with swiftly and justly. Am I hearing you say today that those policies are in place?
Those policies are in place. Here's the challenge.
Okay.
These things don't always come down to so clear yes and no. I'll give you an example. We had a school where a teacher hung up a map of the Middle East that eliminated Israel from the map. So the question is that anti-Semitic? To me, that's anti-Semitic. And we had it removed. But others have said, did you fire her? She said, essentially, I made a mistake. I didn't intend it to be anti-Semitic, and she had a reason for
How
it.
do your, I have just a moment. How do your administrators respond to students that ignore authority, right? I think we have three perpetrators here. We have the students, we have the teachers, and we have the administrators, right?
Right.
And I think all three of those people need
Oh,
to
this
be
lemon
dealt with,
lavender
and
one
need to
is
be dealt
good.
with swiftly and
Casmar, you should
justly.
check this
So with
out. It's
that,
New
I
Hampshire beer.
apologize, I'm out of time, but I would like to see your written response
It's
to
Jack's
how you
Abbey
deal with anti-Semitism as it
Lavend-
pertains to those
Lavenade.
three entities: students, administrators, and teachers. And
Sure.
with that, thank you,
Thank
Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you very much.
I hate
From the
her.
great state of
I hate her, and
California,
she needs to
Representative
go away.
DeSaulnier is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the witnesses.
I just bought a whole bunch of slime. I just bought more slime than I probably should have. I just bought a Fruit Loops milk slime, a lemon tart slime, a Sour Patch Icy slime, an Emerald Glimmer slime, another one of those asteroid dust because mine dried out, and then the mango rice sticky duo. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 slimes. Actually, technically 7 slimes because the duo is 2 slimes. That was like way too much. I probably should have edited that. I probably should have edited my slime order before I submitted it. Anyway.
Sorry, we were having a conversation, collegial conversation here. Let's start by everything everyone in this room,
that's
I
a good
believe,
tip,
agrees
Gloria.
to and you've stated.
Thank you.
Anti-Semitism is unacceptable. All students deserve to be free from hate and
usually
be
just
safe
fix
to
them.
learn and thrive. We need to support all students who are being threatened on school campuses
No one tell Victor I ordered
and
more
stand
slime.
against all forms of hate. Any student who feels unsafe or discriminated against deserves to have their case investigated, and the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights should take all credible claims seriously and investigate. Superintendent, I'm a neighbor. I represent a district just to the east of Berkeley. I used to own a business in Berkeley. I love the atmosphere in Berkeley, the openness, but it does create certain frictions. Openness, I think you would agree. Is that happening right now? Is the Department of Education investigating civil rights complaints?
Yes, there is an open investigation now from the Office of Civil Rights for Berkeley Unified.
And you are cooperating with that fully, correct?
We are fully intending to cooperate. We just received a letter yesterday actually informing us officially of that complaint, and we do see it as an opportunity to reflect and grow and continue to move towards our mission and values.
Exactly.
And you and your board has done
Everyone make sure you tell my husband that I absolutely did not just order new slime, and that when I receive a very large package in about a week or so, he should totally just assume that it is absolutely and definitely not more slime. That's okay. That's okay. You want to know why? Because Victor bought another knife behind my back. You guys don't know this because I haven't talked about it. Victor has a knife collection. And the knife collection just keeps growing and growing and growing. And he keeps swearing that he's not going to buy any more knives. And then I go downstairs. He's like, I have to tell you something. I'm like, what? And he's like, I bought another knife. Do you want to see it? It's really cool. And every knife is different from the 86 knives that he already owns. So then he has to explain to me why that particular knife is just a little bit different, because maybe it has an engraved blade or something like that, or it has some sort of mechanism where it's easy for him to flick it out just in case he needs it, or it's a different size, or it's a special edition, or some other shit. So I don't care. My husband buys knives behind my back, and then he confesses later. I buy slime. My habit is actually cheaper than his.
Everything to reasonably stop a complaint from coming, and you believe that the process will show that.
We believe the process will show that.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd like to insert into the record letters from Berkeley parents and community members, teachers, detailing the difficulties that schools face in addressing the war in Gaza, and in support of the superintendent and the board to build and maintain a safe and learning environment. There's also letters from Jewish parents about Berkeley Unified School District's support for Jewish students. I'd like to submit that for the record.
Without objection, so ordered, without objection.
Mr. Emerson Sykes, the balance between free speech and protecting students is what we're challenged by. Justice Holmes and Justice Brandeis wrote about this extensively. Justice Holmes talked about screaming fire in a crowded room. Justice Brandeis, the first Jewish member of the Supreme Court, talked about the antidote to this, I'm paraphrasing, to challenges of irrational fear is more speech, not less speech. Could you talk to a little bit of that? He actually has a quote where he talks about violence alone should not, the threat of violence alone, and I'm quoting from him now from memory, should not stop free speech. And that in that quote, he talked about men burned women as witches, and we can't condone that either. So this balance that Brandeis and Holmes struggled with all those years ago is your forte. How are we balancing that right now?
Thank you. The rules that apply according to the Constitution and statutes differ whether you're in a crowded movie theater or in a public square or in a K-12 school. And so in the context that we're talking about today, on the one hand, we have robust protections for the free speech rights of all. As the Supreme Court has also said, you do not lose your constitutional rights at the schoolhouse gates. You have the right to hold your opinions, to share your opinions, so long as they are within the bounds of the school context. But the school must act, as I've said, when there is a hostile educational environment. And so a lot of what we are dealing with today is how have schools responded in those situations? And I think, as a husband of a public school teacher and the parent of public school students, I understand that when they make mistakes, we don't send them to their room. We try to help them understand what they've done wrong. We try to help them understand the impact that they've had on others, try to figure out how to make the people who've been harmed feel whole.
You actually act like a teacher. Now, what he's talking about is struggle sessioning students, which I don't agree with either. But my preference between punishing students and suspending them and kicking them out of school because they said something that a Jewish lady doesn't like, and actually having a conversation and trying to be a teacher and teaching them and correcting the behavior in a more appropriate way. Like my preference is going to be you don't suspend the students and like make them hate you for the rest of your life, because you know what you do when you do that? You actually create more anti-Semitism. Like real anti-Semitism, not joke anti-Semitism, real anti-Semitism.
And try to change behaviors in the future. And so I know that good teachers and administrators across the country are doing their best to do that now. And this is the everyday work of schools, trying to nurture students, trying to help them grow while also make them safe.
Do you believe, listening to the testimony of your fellow panelists today, that they are doing that?
I can only assume that they are doing their best.
I find it interesting that some of the members of the committee are prejudging, for instance, the case in Berkeley. At the same time, we have a court case in New York about people complaining about being prejudged in that one. I think really what I hope comes out of this conversation today and continues in the spirit of bipartisanship is that we all, again, say that hatred in any form, particularly in schools, is completely unacceptable from the United States Congress, and that we would adhere to the laws as they are. And if there's something wrong with them, we would work together to correct that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Thank you very much, Representative. Let's stay in the great state of California, and Representative Kiley is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is this Kevin Kiley?
Doctor, I'm sorry. I'm having
Is he in
trouble
Congress?
reading the last name. Ford.
I don't think I knew
it's
that.
Ford. I don't think we got an answer to you as to whether there have been any professors terminated at your school for anti-Semitic words or conduct.
So the answer was that I'm not able to speak about personnel matters, but what I can say to you is we investigate every complaint and concern thoroughly and thoughtfully.
Sure, I'm not asking you to
and
give
we
us
take
names or
action.
anything, but can you just tell us in general, has anyone been terminated?
In general, I can say to you that I can't speak about personnel matters, but I can tell you that we do follow up and we take action.
I'm pretty sure your colleague, Mr. Banks, gave us an answer, so you can.
And I respect and appreciate that, but I'm not going to be able to do that. I can let you know that, again, when any issue comes up, we investigate it, and pending the outcome of that investigation, we do take action. And those actions range.
Thank you. You gave us a statement in your testimony where you said that any suggestion or assertion that anti-Semitism is pervasive in BUSD, that is at your district, is false. However, the Brandeis Center and the Anti-Defamation League have, as we've mentioned, filed a complaint. And for the sake of brevity, I'll read from their release summarizing what's in it. It says, incidents include students repeatedly hearing anti-Semitic comments in classrooms and hallways, such as kill the Jews, non-Jewish students asking Jewish students what their number is, referring to numbers tattooed on Jews during the Holocaust, and Jewish students being derided for their physical appearance and demonized as evil. Students have also had to endure anti-Semitic teacher rants and class activities, teacher-promoted walkouts and praise Hamas, and even a second-grade teacher leading a classroom activity where children were writing "Stop bombing babies" on sticky notes to display in the building. Jewish students report being worried about mob violence, including being jumped at school. Many have said they removed their Stars of David and no longer wear Jewish camp t-shirts, and that they're learning to keep their heads down, hide their Judaism, and move through their school days in fear. Some students have left the district due to pervasive bullying. Parents have repeatedly reported anti-Semitic incidents to the administration, but BUSD has done nothing to address, much less curtail, the hostile environment. The eruption of anti-Semitism in Berkeley's elementary and high schools is like nothing I've ever seen before, said Kenneth Marcus, chairman of the Brandeis Center and former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Education. And yet you testified today, any suggestion or assertion that anti-Semitism is pervasive in BUSD is false. So my question is, if you're not willing to acknowledge the problem, why can we be confident that it's being adequately addressed?
You can be confident that I am there in my schools every day, in the schools, in the classrooms with the babies. And I'm very clear that anti-Semitism, there have been incidents of anti-Semitism in Berkeley Unified School District. And every single time that we are aware of such an instance, we take action and we follow up and we take appropriate action at that.
Okay. Can I ask you about the Israel-Palestine curriculum that's been introduced in some classes in the wake of October 7th? Did you approve this curriculum?
So we do have a controversial policy that says if something is instigated or incited by our students, which was the case with this, that our teachers can respond. So yes, in response to both student interest and parent parent interest to discuss this in our classrooms, we did have a group of teachers who did try to create lessons to respond to the moment and engage our students in conversations.
You approved it? You approved the curriculum?
Our teachers did create it, yes.
And so like one of the slides in this curriculum said, for some Palestinians, from the river to the sea is a call for freedom and peace. It then cited as support a quote from Congresswoman Tlaib, who was censured by this body in a bipartisan vote. Do you think that's an appropriate thing to have on a slide for students?
What was on the slide again? Say it again, please.
It said, for some Palestinians, from the river to the sea is a call for freedom and peace. Do you think that's appropriate?
So we definitely believe that it's important to expose our students to a diversity of ideas and perspectives.
I'm sorry, but if it's appropriate to have on a slide that a Jewish person thinks that from the river to the sea is anti-Semitism, then it is also appropriate to have on the slide a Palestinian person thinks that from the river to the sea is a call for peace. Those are both like you're presenting both perspectives. That is the literal definition of not teaching a fucking political narrative. Presenting different perspectives. And I don't give a fuck what Congress has voted for. It doesn't matter. Other people, there are many people out there who disagree with Congress. Congress is not the fucking boss of us. Congress does not get to decide how we interpret a phrase. That is why we have the First Amendment.
And if it was presented as a perspective, I do think it's appropriate.
You do. So you think, I mean, I think, is it any wonder? And you said earlier you thought this was anti-Semitic. And, you know, you
No,
put this
she
on a slide
didn't.
in the classroom.
She
and the
literally
students go around
didn't.
the halls saying it. I don't think there's anything surprising about that. But I wanted to also ask you about the ethnic studies curriculum you have, because I think you contract with a group called the Liberated Ethnic Studies Consortium. Is that right?
Yes.
So this consortium, as I understand it, grew out of the initial working group to form California's model ethnic studies
Yeah.
curriculum. And the
Congressman,
original version
why
of that
haven't
was
you given us a
universally condemned as
concrete definition
anti-Semitic.
of anything?
14 members of the legislature, all Democrats, said it is difficult to fathom why the state of California would want to actively promote a narrative about Jews that echoes the propaganda of the Nazi regime. Even Gavin Newsom said the curriculum was offensive in so many ways it would never see the light of day. So it was revised, but this Liberated Ethnic Studies Consortium offers the original version of it. They split off from the group and said, we're going to stick with the original anti-Semitic
I
version.
hate
And that's the version
everyone
that you
and
went out
everything.
and decided to have in your classrooms. Is that right?
That is actually incorrect, Congressman. I thank you for the opportunity to clarify.
Okay, please.
So Berkeley Unified School District has not purchased any curriculum from Liberated Ethnic Studies Consortium. In fact, our ethnic studies curriculum is created in-house, if you will. We pride ourselves on having.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I misheard you.
community-responsive-
Did you say, I thought you said you contracted with the Liberated Ethnic
So we
Studies.
have Liberated Ethnic Studies as a thought partner. Our teachers and our staff and our
partner.
community members actually create our curriculum. So we're not purchasing or buying any curriculum from Liberated Ethnic Studies.
I don't understand what the difference between a thought partner and working with them on
Oh, for
curriculum
sure, I
is.
can explain to you. So Liberated Ethnic Studies is one of two experts in the field of ethnic studies that Berkeley Unified School District evaluated to partner with. Our curriculum, our units that are being created, the ethnic studies units, are created by our educators in partnership with community members, et cetera.
Thank
and
you
they
very
are
much.
a
My
resource
time has
that we
expired,
use.
but I'll just say, Mr. Chair, that you specifically chose to work with a group whose work product was rejected by political leaders throughout California as anti-Semitic. And so I don't think it's any wonder then that you see anti-Semitism suddenly become rampant.
The
in
gentleman's
halls of the
time is
school. Thank you, Mr.
expired.
Chair. I yield back.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the great state of New York. Representative Bowman, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Chancellor Banks, you didn't just roll out of bed and become chancellor, and your background is not only in school safety, you are also a classroom teacher, and you're also the founder of two highly regarded high schools, the School of Law, Government, and Justice in the Bronx, and the first all-male school in the Bronx as well, the Eagle Academy for Young Men. So I want you to speak to us
That's
briefly
interesting.
about the curriculum that is being implemented in New York City schools to address the issue of anti-Semitism. And
I'm gonna be honest. I kind of like the idea of like having like all boys schools, just so like I mean, it honestly seems like it would be maybe a better educational environment for like, I mean, like in the world we live in today. Normally, I'm not like in favor of those things, but I think we also have to deal in reality. I don't know. Kind of seems like a good idea.
hate. Please be as concise as possible because I have at least two more questions to ask.
Sure. Thank you so much for the question. So number one, teaching about the Holocaust, first of all, is required by New York State law. That's important to note. We also cover the Holocaust in grades 8, 10, and 11 in our social studies curriculum, as well as in a range of our ELA.
Is teaching kids how to read required by New York State law? I'm honestly asking the question. Is teaching kids how to read or write or do math required by New York State law or any state law?
Classes, including literature like the Diary of Anne Frank, Night, and many other literary pieces. We're also now working on a Holocaust resource guide, which is going to be available this fall in collaboration with the Museum of Jewish Heritage. But the thing that I think we're really super excited about is we are developing a very robust, comprehensive curriculum, new curriculum. It's going to be about a year before it's ready to go. That is going to cover the entire range of Jewish history. Children need to understand deeply about the history of the Jewish people if we ultimately want to solve for this issue of anti-Semitism.
So I appreciate that because that was going to be my suggestion because Jewish history didn't start with the Holocaust. There's
beyond
an
the
entire
Holocaust, that's
history of persecution that our kids need to learn about. There's also a part of history where the Jewish people and Muslims and Christians live together in harmony in the Middle East and different parts of the world. And I want to suggest you teach that as part of the curriculum as well. Mr. Sykes, can you talk about the distinction between anti-Semitic speech and speech that expresses solidarity with Palestinians or criticisms of Israel? Why is it dangerous to conflate the two?
That's a good question,
Thank you.
actually.
The ACLU has spoken out against the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, not because we have
Good.
any problem with anti-Semitism awareness, obviously, but because it incorporated a definition of anti-Semitism that includes criticism of Israel. And just as it is totally legitimate to criticize the US government or US government officials without necessarily casting aspersions on any particular individual, the government of Israel is certainly subject to criticism, just like—
I told you guys, I told you. The ACLU guy is the most reasonable person on this entire panel. And we're normally not on his side, but today he is in fact the most reasonable.
all others. Where that goes into ethnic-based hatred or targeting of particular—
Hang on, super chat from Tayton. The craziest thing is how far ahead we are. It's almost like we have a front row seat and are watching the destruction of the United States. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like, Tayton. That is exactly what it's like. We are so far ahead that ain't no one catching up. I mean, I suppose there could be a reality in which people started listening and they did catch up. It's not actually hard to listen to the left. You just need to know where to go. And so I suppose there is kind of like an alternate reality where someone else could actually just start doing what I did and they could catch up. But I don't see that happening. Wouldn't that be interesting though if it did happen? But yeah. Yeah. That's why we need to recruit more people to our cause. We need to get more people involved. If we have to be miserable, then everyone has to be miserable.
individuals. Obviously, schools and communities can and should respond, but the right to dissent against our government and against others is core to free speech.
Thank you so much. And I just have a closing comment to make. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for your testimony, and thank you for your clarity around when you identify anti-Semitism, you respond swiftly and decisively because it needs to be condemned and it needs to be handled accordingly. So I appreciate you all for being here and sharing that with us. What I'm going to ask of you, because I've been very disturbed by some of the language that has come from the other side of the aisle, language around teaching hate. Our teachers in our schools are not teaching hate, the majority of them. When I say majority, I mean 99.9%. I'm a former educator in New York City schools. I have never seen that. Teachers make mistakes, and teachers need to be educated and disciplined when necessary when they do make those mistakes. Yes or no question, just going down the line, starting with Mr. Banks.
Yes.
Can we fight against anti-Semitism and other forms of hate simultaneously? Yes or no?
Not only can we must.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes. So it's really important because there's also been reports in the rise in Islamophobia in New York City schools and across the country. Do you all agree with that? Yes or no?
There it is.
Yes.
There it is. There it
Yes.
is.
Yes. Does sexism still exist in our society?
Absolutely.
Oh
Yes.
my
course.
God.
Yes.
Does anti-Black racism still exist in our society?
Absolutely.
Yes.
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 We must fight hate in all its forms at the same time. I have members of Congress talking about teachers teaching hate. None of them have an education background, by the way. They're talking about teachers teaching hate. I work in Congress. When you go in the rotunda and you look at American history, you see colonists coming in and taking over America from the Native Americans. There is no
Socialist!
reference to the Black people who built this country
He's a
in our rotunda.
socialist. He's a
But we're
socialist.
scolding you about teaching hate. You know how many Black statues there are in the Capitol? 3. You know how many Confederate statues there are in the Capitol? 12. I work in an institution that teaches hate.
Oh my
And with our
God.
policy. Yet we're scolding you as educators who have been doing the statutory, thank you. Yet we're scolding you as educators who have been doing an exemplary job fighting against hate in our schools. So thank you for your work. Please continue to educate us.
Let's stay in the state of New York, where Mr. Representative Williams, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this critically important and timely hearing. I believe it's the moral issue of our time. When I was elected to Congress less than 2 years ago, I was alarmed that threats of violence against synagogues, Jews, and Jewish institutions were on the rise. So in March of last year, as one of my first legislative acts, right here in this very room, I introduced an amendment to House Bill number 5 requiring, and I quote, It is the sense of Congress that all public elementary school and secondary school students should have the opportunities to learn the history of the Holocaust and anti-Semitism, end quote. All that is needed for evil to prevail is for good people to do nothing. And 7 months before the horrific events on October 7th, this committee had the opportunity to speak up and take steps to prevent the growth and spread of anti-Semitism by educating our children. But every single one of my Democrat colleagues voted against that amendment. Every single one. And we submit to the voting results for the record. And now, out of the other sides of their mouths, they pretend to be outraged, yet they do nothing. On October 7th, Hamas announced that it was open season on Jews in Israel. Mr. Banks, kids in your school district got the idea that it was okay to have open season on Jews in New York City public schools. Instead of a reduction in anti-Semitic events in your schools in the wake of this profound immorality of a Holocaust-like massacre of Jews, we've seen an explosion of shocking anti-Semitic events. Mr. Banks, now you say that you're leaning in on combating anti-Semitism. Have the episodes of rape and murder of October 7th been presented to your students of examples of Jew hatred?
Absolutely. The heinous events on October 7th, anti-Semitic, and they have been taught now in our schools and are continuing to be taught across many of our schools.
Is the former principal at Hillcrest still drawing a salary from New York City public schools today?
Yes, he is.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I said, yes, he is.
You are still paying.
He is no longer the principal
former
of the school.
How can Jewish students feel safe at New York City public schools when you can't even manage to terminate the principal of open season on Jews high school, or even endorse suspension of student harassment? How can Jewish students go to school knowing that he is still on your payroll, sir?
I know his payroll it is, sir. And it's not open season on Jews school. It's called Hillcrest High School. That's the name of the school. And at that school, we considered his leadership not strong enough to be the leader in that school.
Wow, but he can still strong enough to participate in your school district? He's still strong enough to be on your payroll?
As the leader of that school.
Is he still strong enough a leader to be on your payroll, sir?
Every one of the employees.
Is that what you're saying? You're endorsing him to continue on your payroll because he has the moral authority to lead students
within our system.
Is that what you're saying,
That's
Mr. Banks?
what I said is
That's
what I
you're
just said.
saying. You're saying that he still has the moral authority.
I did not say that. That's what you said.
That is what I'm asking you. You're justifying his continued employment.
That's how you
I'm
interpret
trying to
it.
challenge. How can that be?
Every employee who works in our schools has due process rights, sir.
Yes.
Due process.
We do not have the
Yes.
authority.
Due
just
process.
because I disagree.
Yes.
There are
Oh my God. Now, I think it should be much easier to fire teachers than it actually is. I think it should be much easier to fire principals than it actually is. But for Republicans to be like, due process, like, fuck you assholes. Seriously. I hate all of these people so much. And I just don't know how anyone can watch this and not understand who controls every single one of these people. It's so retarded. Almost every single person elected in the government of the United States of America reports to fucking Israel. How didn't I see this sooner? Oh, wait, I know, because everyone who talks about it on the internet was silenced and put in some far dark corner of the internet and then was smeared and defamed and dragged and had clips taken out of context so that you were never supposed to listen to them. And if you listened to them and you actually went and found them and listened to them talk, you were considered to be a bad, horrible person just for listening to them. That's how I didn't see it. That's how so many people didn't see it. And even when I was listening to Nick Fuentes, like back before I actually kind of came around to him, even then I was like, he's a horrible person and baby Ben, he's going to be a problem and baby Ben. I'm like, fucking hate that Nick Fuentes was right. I hate that Nick Fuentes was right every single goddamn day. I hate it so, so much that he was right. It burns me to the core of my soul that I have to admit, if I am an intellectually honest person, that Nick Fuentes was right.
Egregious
crimes.
That's not the way that it works in our school system.
There are egregious crimes that have been committed under your watch. I want to give you the opportunity, we have 1 minute remaining, to speak directly to the parents of Jewish students in New York City. Think of this, as Jewish parents walk their children to school tomorrow morning, what can we say? What should they say to their children to allay their children's fears? How should they reassure their children that this anti-Semitic nightmare in your school, sir, has come to an end? Please.
I speak to Jewish parents on a
Please speak to them now.
I'm speaking
Cameras
to them
are
now.
rolling right here. Speak to them now.
I speak to Jewish teachers and parents and families
what do you
every
say?
single
And what do you
day.
say?
And what I say to them is that we do everything we can to ensure that your child or that you, even as a teacher, are going to be safe in our schools. We don't always get it right. Part of the reason that happened at Hillcrest High School was what I considered a lack of proper supervision in that school. That's why the principal was removed from the school. So the teachers in that school are not unsafe. We removed the leader of the
My
school.
time has expired. I doubt very much that they're comforted that this nightmare is over under your
I'm
leadership.
sorry you feel that way.
Let's go to the great state of Connecticut, where Representative Hayes is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today to testify. I would just like to say that I agree with my colleague that those who have committed egregious crimes should not have the moral authority to lead a school or a nation. Also, as an educator, I don't know what people think it is that teachers do. I don't know what people think it is that teachers inside of a classroom or people who choose this as a profession do. I acknowledge and recognize that there's been an unprecedented rise in anti-Semitism in our K-12 schools. And we have had multiple hearings on this committee and the full in this full committee on anti-Semitism. But as an educator, I remind you that we have to teach children that all forms of hate are unacceptable. I listened to my colleague go down the list of all of the things we deal with, that teachers deal with in schools. And I can remember, I mean, the only parallel I have is I'm not in the classroom right now, but I remember after September 11th, going to my department head and saying, we need some professional development on the Muslim experience. I need to be able to support our students and make sure that other students understand their perspective. We had parents come in describing, this is what this holiday means. We had students come in saying, this is why I wear a hijab. Really doing a deep dive and helping students to understand the background and perspective of their peers. We're doing a disservice to students if we are not teaching them about the backgrounds and perspectives of all people. And teachers have the impossible job of bringing students together from different races, religions, ethnicities, socioeconomic backgrounds into one classroom and creating a space where all students.
Like, I don't hate anyone. I don't hate anyone. I hate shitty behaviors that are unhinged from reality. I hate groups of people who proactively spin these narratives to lie to people on a mass scale, to convince them that they're horrible people, to convince them that if they question something or watch a video or listen to a political commentator, even if they don't agree with them, that they're a horrible fucking vile person and they deserve to be canceled and scorned and just eliminated from polite society. Like, I agree with you that, like, you can choose, like there's nothing wrong with, like, hating someone, but I also think that, like, this is not a perspective in which, like, I don't start out hating anyone, and I certainly will never hate anyone because they belong to a specific identity group, because that just goes against the way I perceive the world. But when people are behaving in a certain way, and I won't even ascribe this to the Jews. I will say fucking Zionists, and you don't even need to be Jewish to be a Zionist. Zionists are creating more anti-Semitism right now. I fucking hate their behavior. I hate it. I hate watching conservative Zionists spin a political narrative that is unhinged from reality in order to score points with a foreign fucking government.
Students feel safe. I really hope that on this committee that we spend some time really looking at these intersections between what is happening in our classroom so that kids, it's a lot harder to hate someone that you know. It's a lot harder to diminish or devalue someone's experience when you know what it means or why a person practices a certain religion or whatever. According to research conducted by the ADL Center on Anti-Semitism Research, there's a direct relationship between deficiencies in Holocaust education and heightened prejudicial anti-Semitic beliefs. Ms. Sylvestri, in your testimony, you mentioned that your district is taking affirmative steps to address anti-Semitism and other forms of hate by enhancing the curriculum for K-12 students to expand on topics related to the Jewish experience. Can you tell us a little bit about what your district has done to enhance the curriculum, and additionally, why you believe the teaching of this education is important? And before you answer, I just want to add one thing about the comment about members of this committee not voting for, Congress doesn't set curriculum. You do. So can you let us know what you've done to make sure that students understand the Jewish experience?
Yes. Curriculum, teaching and learning is the bread and butter of what we know how to do well. We have been looking to have our social studies curriculum better reflect our student population. And we have enhanced our Jewish experience education, starting going younger, going into the elementary grades, training teachers so that they could implement Holocaust education in 6th grade. Training, as I mentioned in my statement, for the first time, we're having hate bias training starting this summer for all staff, 25,000.
Why aren't we mandating in schools that they teach about the dangers of communism? Because that used to be a thing that used to actually be taught in schools. Communism has killed way more people than died in the Holocaust, and God knows a lot of communists died in the Holocaust too. I'm just saying, but like communism killed way more people than the Holocaust. So why aren't we teaching that in schools? Why isn't there a law on the books in every single state in the country about teaching why communism is bad and real communism has been tried and it has never worked? Why aren't we having hearings about communism in schools and all the ways in which communism is taught in schools? Why aren't we doing that? This is a Republican-controlled fucking committee. This is not controlled by the Democrats. This is a Republican-controlled committee. If the Republicans, and this has been true for literally years now, literally years, if the Republicans wanted to have a hearing about the dangers of communism and why we're not doing more to teach kids about the dangers of communism in schools, they could have already done it. They could have done it years ago. That's just reality, guys. They could have done this years ago. For all of the Republicans who are screaming about communism, Marxism, socialism, all day, every fucking day. For all of the conservative grifters who are writing endless amounts of books on the dangers of communism, they have not held one hearing that I know of about the dangers of teaching communism in schools and what we're doing to make sure we're teaching communism in schools. Has anyone introduced any sort of bill in any state government or in the federal government that mandates the teaching of communism in schools? No. It's not as though the Republicans couldn't do it. They had the power to do it. That's what this hearing could be about right now. Nope. Ron DeSantis is not doing that in Florida. And do you know how I know Ron DeSantis is not doing that in Florida? Because I can explain to you explicitly how teachers in Florida are obfuscating his so-called Stop Woke Act, and they know about it because I've given them this information and they haven't done it. So that's bullshit. Ron DeSantis isn't doing shit. Ron DeSantis is engaging in political stunts. That's it. I provided Ron DeSantis' government with direct primary source evidence that I got when I went undercover at the Socialism Conference last September to show them explicitly how they are teaching this in schools, how they're getting around Florida state law, all this stuff. It is clear. It is unequivocal. Even Christopher Rufo knows about it. Christopher Rufo has direct contact with Ron DeSantis. At the time, Dave Rubin knew about it. This was before Dave Rubin blocked me on Twitter. Dave Rubin assured me that he was going to make sure someone in Ron DeSantis' office knew about this. I sent it to them myself. I had people in Florida send Ron DeSantis exactly the same information. They never did shit with it. Nothing. Because it's all a political stunt. That's all it is.
And employees in our school system.
Do you think it would be important for students to understand why a statement like "from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free" could be harmful to some of their peers?
Rottweiler says, they tried in Utah to introduce anti-Marxist education curriculum, and even the GOP voted against it a few years ago, something DeSantis won't dare. In New Hampshire, I've bitched and complained about this for literally 3 years now. In New Hampshire, it was not the Democrats who watered down and destroyed the anti-critical race theory bill. It was Republicans. It was 100% Republicans. Democrats didn't even need to do anything. The Republicans killed it on their own. But no, we all have to worry about anti-Semitism. Now, this is the most important thing that's ever happened. Sure.
Or why displaying a map in a classroom that does not have the state of Israel could be hurtful and anti-Semitic to their friends, because that's what kids are. They're friends around them.
Absolutely, Congresswoman. That is our role, is to educate them on the history so that they can understand why our Jewish students might find that phrase is anti-Semitic.
Thank you. Ms. Ford Morthiel, can you, it wasn't your testimony, it was actually Mr. Banks' testimony where he talked about we can't suspend or expel our way out of this problem. Can you talk to us about some of the direct actions that you've taken when these things do occur? Because it has been my experience as an educator that oftentimes young people repeat what they've heard from other people at home and really don't understand the consequences or the history behind what they're saying or doing.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to respond. So I appreciate you saying that. First and foremost, we do believe our role is to educate. And so we engage our students in conversation. We want to make sure that our babies can actually evaluate and reflect on their actions and their words, to think about their intent and also to think about the impact. So conversations is a tool that we use as educators a lot. We also believe in restorative conversation so that students sit with their peers who they've heard or caused harm to hear from them and their perspective about what happened and why it was hurtful. All of these are efforts to, again, change and redirect and correct behavior. And then, of course, education. We talk to students about history, about how and why, for example, the term that you just used might be hurtful to other students when they hear it. And again, that's what we believe is really the way to change behaviors for the long run, not a short-term solution, but one that could actually keep and stay with them as they get older.
Thank you very much. The gentlelady's time has expired. Let's go to the great state of New York again, where Representative Stefanik is recognized for 5
God,
minutes.
she's going to be
Thank you very much, Mr.
insufferable.
Chair. Mr. Banks,
Everyone
there's been
get
many
ready.
questions on Hillcrest, and I just want to make sure it's very clear for the record. The principal of Hillcrest High School is still employed by the Department of Education, correct?
Correct.
And what is his role?
He's serving in a role working on one of the teams under one of our deputy chancellors.
I am told that he's Director of Teacher Development and Evaluation. Is that accurate?
That I don't know his official title right here. I'd have to double check that.
That's concerning to me that you have him in a senior position And what's very concerning about these hearings is that we're getting lip service, but a lack of enforcement, a lack of accountability. And these rules and policies matter, whether it's teachers, administrators, or students violating the rules. I want to switch to Origins High School. In October, 40 to 50 students marched through Origins High School chanting "Death to Israel" and "Kill the Jews." In addition,
Really?
an independent investigation
I want a video
found
of
that
that.
a teacher who teaches global history was told by a student, quote, "I wish you were killed." Another student called her, quote, "a dirty Jew." And the student said he wished Hitler could have hit more Jews, including
Elin.
her. What disciplinary actions have been taken against those students who chanted "Death to Israel" at Origins High School and against the student who harassed with anti-Semitic slurs that teacher?
Two things. First of all, when we've done our investigation, we have found no evidence that there was any movement through the hall saying "death to the Jews." We looked at, and I treat that very, very seriously. That was reported in the papers. We have found no evidence that
So
that
there's no
actually
evidence.
happened.
Holy shit. Holy shit. This is very literally the 40 beheaded babies situation again, where everyone was like, "Pinky swear, we promise, they beheaded 40 babies, pinky swear, trust us, bro," with no evidence. And then, of course, we later find out that the 40 beheaded babies thing that was like touted by Ben Shapiro to millions of people all over the internet was a complete and total lie. And now in Congress, Elise Stefanik is like, they're walking through the halls chanting "Death to Jews." And I'm like, video, bro. I want video. Because if that actually happened, there would be fucking video of it. And now the chancellor of the New York City Public Schools is saying there's literally no evidence that happened. No, listening is fundamental. The 40 beheaded babies thing was bullshit. There was no evidence of that. No one is saying that no babies ever were killed. But if you want to talk about babies that have been killed, we can talk about the tens of thousands of Palestinian children who have been killed. Do you want to talk about that? Because I can actually provide you with photographic evidence of that. But in regards to that 40 beheaded babies bullshit that came out right after October 7th, it was total bullshit. It was completely debunked. They were never able to provide evidence of it because it didn't fucking happen. I think these Congress people are extra fired up for this one because they know Columbia president lied at the one before. I mean, she did lie at the one before. I called it out at the time. I think she's getting ready to resign too. She's apparently not going to graduation, so I bet she's going to be out at Columbia not too long from now. Wow. So Elise Stefanik is shilling propaganda. Confirmed. Thank you.
I've found a wide range, deeply troubling anti-Semitic things that have happened at Origins High School. This is the one case that has troubled me the most, Congresswoman. I will tell you that.
So what are the
And
enforcement actions?
I'm trying to tell you, we have in fact suspended a number of students at that school, but currently this case now is under litigation, and I'm being advised not to speak to the specific things that have happened there, but just know that I visited that school after these allegations have come up. I met with parents, family, staff, students. I'm deeply troubled by what has happened there, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. I can't say more because it is now under litigation.
Twitter,
You understand
Instagram,
our concern,
video,
though, as
primary
policymakers, when we
source.
have witnesses testify, whether it's Columbia University, Penn, Harvard, or New York City Chancellor, when there is a lack of enforcement and accountability, that there is a set of rules, but that individuals who violate those rules are not.
Whatever, Elise. You are lying when you're asking questions and saying things happen that never happened. So where's the accountability for you lying?
Not held accountable.
We've held a lot of people accountable. That was part. You want to hear when I gave my opening statement.
But you didn't. You said you fired the principal, and it turns out the former principal.
I never said I fired the
Hillcrest,
principal.
You did. A member. You can
No,
check
he
the
didn't.
testimony. Ms. McLean asked you fired her. You said yes.
Fired the principal of who?
Hillcrest.
I never said I fired the principal of Hill. You check the record. I never said
I will
that.
check the record.
said
I
that
will
we
check the
removed
record.
for him.
the
Mr. Banks,
principal.
Mr. Banks,
Never said I fired the principal.
She
Good
said,
for
has
him.
he been fired? You said yes, and then
I
we
did
moved
not
on.
say that.
You did?
Well,
Yes,
I would beg to differ
they
on
We
that.
now
do.
know, though, that he is still
Yes.
employed by the Department of
He is no
Education.
longer at the school. He's been
But he is
removed from
employed
his
by the
position
Department of
as the
Education.
principal of the school.
Listen, man, I don't like this guy, But this guy clearly said he was removed from his position as principal. He never said he was fired. He is right, and Elise Stefanik is wrong.
Now
That's
he is
not the same thing as
employed
terminated.
at the Department of Education. You testified to that.
Yes.
And you also said, I believe, we've been told he's Director of Teacher Development and Evaluation, and you're not sure if that's the case. Our expectation is we'll get an answer by the end of today, whether
You
that's
will.
the case or not.
Absolutely.
My next question is, there have been multiple teacher-led anti-Israel walkouts during school time. What are the consequences for those teacher walkouts? And do those violate
hate
policy of DOE?
I'm not sure what teacher walkouts. We've had a number of walkouts of students out of school, including several of our high schools, which are also very troubling for me.
So what disciplinary action is taken in that case?
Right. The challenge that we have in that case is we do not have any rules within our code of conduct that would prevent a child from actually walking out of the school. When they walk out of the school, they are marked absent. They're essentially cutting from school. There are consequences for cutting school.
And it's your
notify
testimony
parents,
today that there's
but-
no teacher involvement in those walkouts? Because independent media reports say that there is teacher involvement in those walkouts.
I don't have any evidence of that. We have evidence of one where principal assigned a teacher to go with a student to a protest, completely inappropriate. That principal was disciplined, the teacher was disciplined in that particular case.
What was the form of the discipline?
I'm not at liberty to tell you the very specific. They were not fired, but we have a wide range of discipline that takes place in those cases, and we did take action.
And my last question is, you had a teacher at Gotham Tech High School in Queens, and you've spoken out publicly against this. He posted images of a Hamas paraglider to his social media, repeatedly refers to so-called Israel. Again, this is highlighting a Hamas paraglider.
Wait. Now, listen. I fully endorse every parent monitoring the social media of the teachers that are teaching their kids in school. So I'm not above snagging something off of someone's social media to use it against them. So I appreciate the spirit of this. However, a teacher posting something on their personal social media is an issue of free speech. When I snag things off people's social media, I'm doing it to try to demonstrate that they're communists. I'm not necessarily doing it to say like they should be fired, because I don't think they are going to be fired. I'm doing it to inform parents to say your kid's teacher is a communist and you need to watch out for that, because you need to just check up on what they're teaching your kids in school. They're allowed to say communist things on the internet. They're allowed to post communist pictures on the internet. They're allowed to post things I disagree with on the internet. They're allowed to post things you disagree with on the internet. What Elise Stefanik is doing is essentially saying that teachers do not have free speech rights outside of the classroom. And that to me is a little alarming, considering she's a United States Congresswoman.
Slaughtered Jews. We all have seen the
That's right.
horrific
Horrible.
footage, who cooked babies. These are terrorists. What
No,
disciplinary
that
action
didn't
has taken
happen.
against this teacher?
Again, action was
Wait.
taken when, first of all, I want to just say,
You want the school to punish the teacher for something the teacher posted on their personal social media outside of school? That's not cool, bro. Not cool.
I think what that employee did, absolutely disgusting. Absolutely
But what
disgusting.
action?
And we took action.
What was the action?
I cannot give you the specifics on the action that was
Yes,
taken.
you can. You're in
The
front of
gentlelady's
Congress.
Tom
What is the
has-
action?
I cannot give you this on the specific employee, on this specific employee.
You
we
can
did-
give us an
gentlelady's
answer.
time
You're
has
choosing
expired.
not
But we
to.
did
That's
not.
unacceptable.
Time has expired.
He
Let's
doesn't
go
answer
to
to
the
you,
great
Elise.
Commonwealth of Virginia. Representative Scott, you were
I hate all of them. I hate them
very good. Let's
so
go to
much.
the great state of North Carolina. Representative Manning, you are recognized.
This
Thank
is
you, Mr. Chair.
You're right about this. This is legitimate neo-McCarthyism combined with radical Zionism. Now, I'm not necessarily opposed to McCarthyism. I actually think we should make McCarthyism great again. I think we should have a whole round of anti-communist witch trials in Congress. I think that would be fucking awesome. But that's not what this is. This is neo-McCarthyism, like, that has bred and mutated with radical Zionism. And that's bullshit.
like to set the record straight. Mr. Williams' amendment that he mentioned followed the failure of every Republican on this committee to vote for my amendment to prohibit the banning of books on the Holocaust, which I offered because schools in many states are banning books like The Diary of Anne Frank, which is an incredible tool for teaching students about the perils of discrimination. So, Mr. Banks, I was pleased to hear that your schools are still teaching The Diary of Anne Frank. And Ms. Sylvestri, I'm pleased to hear your description of the training your teachers are getting to infuse your K-12 schools with teaching about what anti-Semitism is and why it is so dangerous, not just to Jews, but to our whole society. Ms. Ford-Morthell, can you talk about the resources you use to train your teachers about anti-Semitism?
Yes, so we have a number of resources that we use in Berkeley. One, first and foremost, just to unite us against hate. In November, we celebrate Uniting Against Hate Month and Week, and have a number of resources that equipped our educators with facilitating conversations with our students about what hate is, what it looks like, and just the impact of hate, and the fact that as Berkeley Unified, we stand firmly against hate. We also have a number of curriculums, our social emotional learning curriculums for our students that talk about harassment and bullying, how to be an ally, and just how to be in community. Our upper grades, particularly our 10th grade educators do have curriculum on the Holocaust, but to the point of a previous congressman, that is not the beginning or the end of the story of Jewish peoples. And so we also integrate curriculum throughout our grade levels with texts and readings about the richness of the Jewish heritage and Jewish culture in our schools. And then generally just want to make sure that our teachers' pedagogy, their approach to teaching, is really about centering diverse ideas and needs of the students and bringing those ideas to the center so that they can engage in those critical conversations and come to truths and understanding on their own.
Thank you. Let me suggest the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum has many readily available resources to teach about the Holocaust and the history of anti-Semitism. They are formulated specifically for K-12 classrooms. They are available online. They have courses your teachers can attend during the summer. It is a wonderful resource, and I highly recommend using the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. In fact, I have introduced a bipartisan bill, the Countering Anti-Semitism Act, which includes in it opportunities and, frankly, obligations for schools across the country to work with the U.S. Holocaust Museum, teaching anti-Semitism, teaching what hate does to all of us. And I hope that all of my colleagues on this committee will co-sponsor my Countering Anti-Semitism Act. It is a bipartisan bill, and it's important that my colleagues on this committee do more than just talk before the cameras about anti-Semitism, but actually sign on to a bill like the Countering Anti-Semitism Act so that we can actually do something and build the structures to combat that. Now, an important pillar of the U.S. national strategy to combat anti-Semitism, which was issued for the first time ever by President Biden, an important issue of that is media literacy. We know that many students are exposed to harmful misinformation online every day by social media, which in many cases has inflamed tensions and led to anti-Semitic incidents. In fact, I recently viewed a video on TikTok that was probably the most horrifying thing I have heard, a young person talking about why it's appropriate to hate Jews. So I'd like to ask each of you, how are your schools teaching young people to check their sources, to be savvy, critical consumers of online content? Because that is one way that hate is being spread. And Mr. Banks, can I start with you?
Yes, please. It's a very, very complicated issue. We actually have a social media policy. Every one of our schools gets a level of training in digital literacy so that they understand how to think critically through these issues. But that is easier said than done.
She does look like Dolores Umbridge.
Schools, and in fact, many of these cases of anti-Semitism are a result of young people not fully developing their ability to process what they're seeing on social media and then emotionally responding to that in a way, particularly students of Muslim and Arabic background who are seeing horrific acts happening themselves and are responding to that. So it is a difficult, ongoing process.
Ms. Sylvestri, any thoughts? We only have in 13 seconds.
It is my understanding that social media literacy is taught in our health curriculum and also just as a critical thinking strategy throughout all of our classes.
Thank you. I would encourage all of you to do everything you can to figure out how we teach our students to be critical thinkers, and then maybe they will teach their parents how to be critical thinkers. Thank you so much for your testimony. I yield back.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the great state of Michigan. Representative Wahlberg, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the chairman and thank the panel for being here. I'm sorry I had to leave. I was speaking at a quick luncheon. I didn't get the lunch from a number of higher education institutions. An important time to speak to them as well. I wasn't here for the question I believe that my colleague, Representative Stefanik, asked about the principal at Hillcrest. We had checked ourselves after hearing your response, Mr. Banks, seeing some of the room shaking their head strongly that this person wasn't, as a principal, removed and didn't go on.
He was
in the New
removed
York
as a principal.
education system. We came to find information that this person went to the New York Department of Education. Am I correct on that?
What's the question again? I'm not sure. That he's
The principal that from Hillcrest
Yes.
that you said was removed
right,
and didn't go in, wasn't just transferred to another school in the system.
right.
We wanted to check on that because I saw indications in this room that that wasn't
Yes, he
the
was.
right answer. He went to the New York Department of Education, as I understand it?
Well, all of our schools come under the Department of Education. I oversee the entire Department of Education. We have
That's-
schools, and then we have
Yeah.
other administrative
Well, that
offices.
concerns me that this guy is still in education in New York when he had an egregious response at Hillcrest. And so I just wanted to make that clear
I
and make
understand.
sure I understood it as
Yeah.
well.
He was removed
And-
from the
and-
school, but he is still in our
But he's still
employ.
in education in
Yes,
New
he is.
York. And
Yes.
that worries me.
I understand.
Following the attack on Israel on October 7th, our nation's institutions of higher education have been rocked by anti-Semitic protests, as we're talking about, and direct harassment of Jewish students. And while a critical eye must be placed on the teachings and policies at these institutions, we can't overlook our K-12 system. And so thanks for holding this hearing today. In fact, we know that the teachers that had been trained in our higher education institutions to being change agents in the world are in our K-12 systems, and they have been for years been trained to be anti-Semitic themselves. Critical theories that they've been trained in, oppressor and oppression, and important as well, anti-American. So it's a challenge that we have to look in our K-12 system.
Wow.
It's during this developmental phase.
So he understands. This is, oh my fucking God. So he understands that teachers have been trained in something called critical theory, in which it talks about an oppressor and oppressed narrative. But in typical Republican fashion, he does not understand that this has nothing to do with anti-Semitism at all. It has to do with seeing Israel as the capitalist oppressor. Gee, I wonder why he doesn't understand that. Could it be that every fucking conservative influencer talking about this has not understood it? And could that be because James Lindsay is a fucking Zionist who has failed to explain any of this to the people who are literally paying him money to explain this?
The students start to grasp the difference between right and wrong and critically begin to realize that other people have their own feelings that might not match theirs. If we fail students at this scholastic phase, then it's no wonder we're seeing the level of intolerance and violent rhetoric later in their studies and even in our K-12 system. I recently met with educators who have used the Morse Life Holocaust learning experience to help educate their students about the realities of the Holocaust and anti-Semitism history. And I encourage
Not really getting
our
good
institutions
sounds.
to look into that training. I'd like to oppose for our educators in the room just this one question and answer as briefly as possible. What have you done specifically to teach critical thinking in classrooms and promote reason and the underpinnings of moral and civil behaviors that mitigate hate? And I guess I'll start, because I have a W for name, I'll start at the end of the table first. Ms. Ford Murthow.
Thank you, Congressman. So this is something that we integrate in our instruction starting from the youngest of grades. First of all, we engage our students in open-ended questions and prompts that allow them to bring their ideas to the table. And then we share information with them as well, but we are not a direct teach type of organization. And so that is one way that we facilitate and actually build our students' muscle to be critical thinkers and critically engaged. We have norms in our classroom. For example, we talk to our students about being present, being respectful, being brave, being open and being aware to different perspectives, being flexible and being sensitive. So it's a muscle that they build throughout their grades in Berkeley Unified School District. And of course, we teach them to be critical consumers and evaluate and analyze the information that's coming to them through a number of perspectives so that ultimately, again, they can make decisions on their own.
We'll hope we'll see the impact of that in an exemplary way. So, Ms. Sylvestri.
Yeah, similarly, I'm not a teacher or principal or superintendent myself. As a school board member, it's my understanding that we follow the Maryland State curriculum, the Maryland State standards. We have a comprehensive curriculum that integrates critical thinking throughout, offering multiple perspectives so that students can see history and facts through different perspectives. That's my understanding, sir.
Mr. Banks.
First of all, critical thinking starts with learning how to read. And we have leaned into a very significant way with our NYC Reads and making sure that all kids are on grade level. Beyond that, we have a wide range of things from Socratic method to project-based learning, all of that. And finally, I would also like to say, sir, that, I would be careful to casting aspersions on an entire system. We have some teachers who have had some of these challenges, but we've had members of Congress who've made anti-Semitic statements. And I certainly would not cast aspersions on this entire institution. Similarly, I would stand in defense
that was
of
a
New
good
York City
line,
educators as well. We have some, and when we see that it rears its head, we deal with it.
Well, I would stand with you on that, but I also think that
the gentleman's
we ought to fire
time
some
has
people as
expired.
well.
The gentleman's time has expired, and now we go to the great Commonwealth of Virginia. Representative Scott, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, earlier in the hearing, a gentleman from New York raised questions about the this side of the aisle in terms of our commitment to fight anti-Semitism. I just remind him, after it was pointed out, the context of because we voted against his amendment, context of that amendment was pointed out, but also after the UVA alt-right rally, we asked for hearings on anti-Semitism and couldn't get it. And we've also been unable to get any hearings on other forms of hate. And I'd ask Chancellor Banks, do you deal with other forms of hate other than anti-Semitism, like homophobia, racism? Do transgender students have a right to be safe in school? Can you talk about other forms of hate?
Yeah, and hate rears its head every single day. And as a Black man who's had to deal with, my people with a history of racism in America as well, this is something that is ever present. But as the chancellor of the New York City Public Schools, the work that we see, the aspersions that are cast against the LGBTQ community, the aspersions that are cast against Asian Americans, homosexuals, there's no end to this scourge of hate. And so that's why I say anti-Semitism doesn't simply affect Jews.
My mother is texting me right now in a group chat. And okay, we're getting towards the end of the stream. And so things get a little crazy at the end of the stream when I've been drinking for 3 hours and stuff like that. I'm trying to find the most hilarious way to break the news to my mother, or to get my mother to figure out that like I'm connected in some way to the notorious famous anti-Semite Nick Fuentes and white nationalist. Maybe I should just wait until AFPAC and get a picture of me and Nick together and text that to my mother. Or should I finagle some way to like bring it into the conversation in a group chat? Like, I don't know exactly what that would be, but like we need like my mother is going to find out eventually. At some point, one of my mother's lefty friends is going to like, cause my mother's lefty friends, like, and I have like all these relatives and all these cousins and shit, and they all know I do this internet stuff. At some point, someone is going to figure out that I know Nick Fuentes, that I'm going to AFPAC, and that Nick Fuentes is making this big splash on Twitter because Elon Musk just reinstated the notorious white nationalist and anti-Semite. And at some point, someone in my family or one of my mother's lefty friends is going to tell my mother about this, and I'm going to get a phone call. And it's gonna be like, Carla, do you know someone named Nick Fuentes? And I'm gonna be like, that's a long story. So I'm kind of like, I'm trying to find out, trying to figure out a way to like preempt this, but I want to do it in the most funny possible way so that I have a good story about when my mother finds out that. Yeah, he does. He does follow me. He does. I hope everyone understands when these people say hate, it's just, the First Amendment is not in their line of thinking. Hey, that's true, Tayan. So listen, we don't have to have this. We don't have to solve this problem today. All right. I'm just saying that I want everyone just to keep this in the back of their minds that, if my mother is going to find out about this eventually anyway, then we need to troll her in some way because that's going to be funny for me. And I feel like it's payback for things that I had to experience in my childhood that I didn't like. And so just everyone think about this. And if you have any ideas about how best to troll my mother with this information, you let me know. Okay.
Anti-Semitism affects all of us, particularly all people of goodwill. And so I stand up not only against anti-Semitism, I stand up against Islamophobia and all other forms of hate.
She is going to lose it. She is. That's true.
Not the way that
it's going to be worse than Autumn.
Responsible about how we are going to approach this. We have to deal with all forms of hate. The whole world lives in New York City, and I have a responsibility to be the champion and the chancellor for everybody.
Well, thank you. And just as an aside, is it your practice to determine facts and sanctions based on media reports or due process?
That for me?
That's for you.
We are responsible. Just because something was written on the front page of a tabloid doesn't make it true. And so we have to investigate. We do that responsibly, and then we move appropriately to deal with those situations on a case-by-case basis.
And you indicated that you can't discipline yourself out of the problem. What did you mean? Could you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, what I mean is that ultimately, if we really care about solving for anti-Semitism, and I believe this deeply, it's not about having gotcha moments. It's about teaching.
Hey, true.
You have to raise the consciousness of young people. And
you know what? I'm coming around to this guy. He may be a leftist and I'm sure he's a socialist, but this guy doesn't give a this guy has won me over in the course of this testimony because he doesn't give a shit. He's basically told like 3 Congress people to go screw when they tried to gaslight him to believe he said something he didn't say. He's standing his ground. He's calling them out on their bullshit. You can't ask for more than that.
Challenge we have as a system is that we do have some adults who bring their own bias into the classroom, and we've got to figure out how do we unpack all of it at the same time. But the ultimate answer for anti-Semitism is to teach, to expose young people to the Jewish community so that they understand our common humanity. And I would certainly ask that my colleagues from across the nation, and I would call on Congress, quite frankly, to put the call out to action, to bring us together, to talk about how we solve for this. This convening for too many people across America in education feels like the ultimate gotcha moment. It doesn't sound like people who are actually trying to solve for something that I believe we should be doing everything we can to solve for.
Thank you. Mr. Sykes.
This is why we listen to people, because you never know. You really never know.
These events, the seriousness of the problem, whether there's anti-Semitism or a comment on the position on the war in Gaza. Can you say another word about why it's so hard to determine whether or not expressions are protected under the First Amendment or a violation of the criminal code or a violation of Title VI or campus policy?
Yes, Congressman, these are all situations that are evaluated based on the totality of the circumstances. There are words that we might agree here that we all agree are offensive, but we also can understand that certain words depend on how they're used, when they're used, to whom they're used, how often they are used. And all of those are relevant to determining whether speech is protected or creating a hostile educational environment. And if I might, I meant just to add on to the question about how do we promote critical thinking and exposure to a variety of ideas. One of the things that we are doing at the ACLU is fighting back against bans on inclusive education. This was started by an executive order by the former president and has now been copied and pasted in multiple states. 18 million Americans now live under an education gag order where certain ideas are being prohibited
You
from
are
classrooms.
so close,
this is the epitome
ACLU
of
guy.
trying to crack down on critical thinking. And so we think that this legitimate threat to free speech and free inquiry needs to be addressed urgently as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Representative Scott. Let's go to North Carolina, where the chair of Education and Workforce Committee is Dr. Virginia Fox, is recognized for 5 minutes. Dr. Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank our witnesses for being here today. I'm going to ask Ms. Sylvestri to pull her mic a little closer to her mouth so I was having trouble hearing you before. President Sylvestri, you said in your opening statement, quote, our policy is to initiate an investigation each time the school system receives a complaint or we witness particular anti-Semitic, hate-filled, or racist language or actions. On average, how long does each anti-Semitism investigation take?
I don't have an exact number of weeks that it takes, but I believe that we do a very thorough job, so we take as long as is needed to investigate.
Are the victims always notified of the results?
The victims are notified that an action has been taken, but not specifics of what the consequence was doled out.
Will you pledge to notify people when you have done the investigation?
We are working on improving our communication so that the victims have more information about what the outcome has been.
Okay, working on it. Okay. Ms. Superintendent
Do you
Ford
not want them
Murthel,
not to be working on it?
you said in your
Like,
submitted testimony that you were, quote, excited, end
hate
quote,
all
about
these people. I
California's
hate
new
them.
ethnic studies law. However, we've heard from Jewish families who are concerned that Berkeley's curriculum presents a slanted perspective of the Israeli-Palestine conflict. For example, the curriculum teaches that the war's consequences for Palestine are, quote, no water, no food, no electricity, end quote.
That's literally
Whereas the
true.
consequences for
That's literally fucking true. Israel literally shut off the electricity, the water, and prevented food from being brought in. That is literally true. Ungoddamn believable.
Israel are, quote, ceremonies put on hold, travel advisories in place, and cities shut down. Do you think that's a fair representation of the Israeli-Palestine conflict?
I do not think that's a fair representation.
Have you consulted with Jewish groups in considering how you will teach ethnic studies?
So, Councilwoman, Congresswoman, I want to distinguish the lessons that I believe you're speaking about in our ethnic studies curriculum. The lessons that you're speaking about was a lesson set that was created in response to a lot of curiosity, a lot of questions, and quite frankly, a lot of confusion from many of our students wanting to know what was going on. And so we had a group of history teachers and social studies teachers and ethnic studies teachers create a lesson set in response to that. That is distinguished from Berkeley's ethnic studies curriculum.
We're all paying for this.
Thank you. Mr. Banks, we've talked about the map that was posted in a school, the Arab Cultural Arts program at the school, where the map has been funded by the Qatar Foundation, a nonprofit owned by the country's ruling family. The Free Press has found that QFI donated over $1 million to the New York Department of Education from 2019 to 2022 for materials.
Listen, man, there's part of me that says, like, I don't know how to coordinate this, and I don't know how to give people the balls to do it. And I don't know if I would necessarily have the balls to do it myself, but like, We need to coordinate some sort of like mass strike on paying taxes to fund this bullshit. Because we're all paying for this. And they know they know they can get away with it because there are no consequences. And so like there's just got to be like at some point, and I'm not going to lead this effort, and I would be really reticent to do it, and I understand why other people would be reticent to do it, but like there's got to be some sort of like fucking mass strike against no. Stop. No. It's like if you give a kid your credit card and that kid behaves irresponsibly with that credit, and you give it to them and you're like, go get a haircut and go buy an outfit for school or like whatever, and that kid behaves irresponsibly with that credit card over and over and over, and not only does that kid behave irresponsibly with a credit card, the kid then shows up and feels entitled to take the credit card again and again and again and keeps buying more and more shit and wears it around the house like, look what you bought me. And you're like, I told you could buy one outfit. I didn't tell you you could buy 17 outfits. Like, what the fuck? And the kid just keeps doing this over and over and over and over and over again. At some point, you have to say, you've lost your fucking privileges. This is my money. It's not your money. You fucked this up because I gave you a lot of leeway. I asked many times. I said, stop doing this shit. I said that I'm only paying for this one thing. You then bought 17 things and I let it go, and I let it go over and over and over and over and over again. But now you've gone too fucking far.
Such as this map. You understand the map, you know the map I'm talking about, where Israel does not exist.
Yes.
Okay. Does your office vet the materials purchased by these funds for anti-Semitism? If not, will you commit to establishing vigorous vetting to ensure that foreign entities unfriendly to Israel are not stocking your classrooms with anti-Semitic content?
Yes, and we do vet the materials. That map was not a result of the Qatar Foundation. That individual teacher bought that map on her own with her own resources when she was in Jerusalem. That is what she told us. So it was not part of the resources that came from the Qatar Foundation. But we do vet all the other materials and resources that come into our schools. And that foundation has had no impact. They write the check. They've had no impact on the curriculum that's been developed and how it's been implemented.
So individual teachers are allowed to bring in materials that may be very anti-Semitic. Are you going to vet those materials?
Absolutely. And as we hear about those cases, in New York City, we have 77,000 teachers. And so, this is not Mayberry, it's New York City. It is a very large system. And it's difficult for me as the chancellor to say, any individual map that's up on a wall in any particular classroom, I'm already aware of it. But we make sure that the principals of those schools, they're supposed to provide that level of supervision.
I have one more quick question for you, Mr. Banks. Do other countries donate significant sums to New York City public schools?
I do not have, I would have to get back to you on that. I do not have any evidence in front of me now that we have any other foreign governments which are supporting other programs in our schools. But I don't want to misrepresent here. We can certainly get you the answer for that by the end of the day.
Well, we'd be happy if you would follow up with an answer on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you. And Mr. Banks, we would all like to see that answer.
Yes.
We are nearing the end of our committee. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for thank you for being great audience members. And we just have to have closing statements, and I'll yield to Ranking Member Bonamici for her closing thoughts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to the witnesses for being here today and for your work. I do want to note, Mr. Chairman, that the witnesses today are from what might be considered blue states. And I do want to introduce into the record articles that discuss instances of anti-Semitism in Florida, Texas, and Alabama. So that's in the record as well.
Without objection.
And Mr. Chairman, as I said, I was hoping this could be a constructive conversation during which we would work together on finding the most effective way to address and prevent anti-Semitism in schools. Sadly, tasks like this are made more difficult because we are in an era of deep division. a time when too often dialogue about tough issues is confrontational if it happens at all, and a time when, it pains me to say this, but it's relevant, the top Republican running for president of the United States has engaged not only in anti-Semitic tropes, but also in divisive, degrading, and disparaging language, including mocking a reporter with a disability, calling American troops cowards if they were captured, ignoring the rule of law, threatening to have people shot by police for a shoplifting or a minor crime, bragging about groping stars, and making so many countless and demeaning comments about women that it's impossible to count them. I could go on, but my point is, sadly, there has been a tone set at the top that seems to tolerate disrespect for others, a tone that hurts not just us as a legislative body, but as a nation. So I'll say it again, it is my hope that this committee will set aside differences and work on, in good faith, on how we can best address and prevent anti-Semitism in our schools, in our country, as well as other hate speech. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to continuing the conversation, and I yield back.
Ranking Member Bonamici, thank you so much. I would say it's been an excellent meeting. I would say when I met each of you, just for that brief moment before we start, I regret, Mr. Sykes, you were running in and we're all just racing in Congress. Said we were, our mission was to have an open and honest conversation. I think we delivered that. And if we're going to solve the problems that we've identified today, it starts with recognizing that it's happening and that we need to do more. I think we're reminded of the most precious asset that's under each of your purview, and that's the next generation, these young kids. Some have described them as with minds full of mush that you help form into shapes and critical thinking. And we know that any seeds of hatred or anti-Semitism that's planted there without weeding it and without shaping it can grow. And we can look at the video screens of what it can become if not left unchecked. Mr. Sykes, I'm very aware of your presence here today with the ACLU is a reminder that we are a country built on free speech, but free speech doesn't include death to Jews or some of the other vile slogans that we've heard. I'm aware of that, but it's so hard to be a kid in today's society. There's pressures. I'm a kid of the 70s and 80s, and it's hard to imagine growing up now with social media and the other pressures of being a kid today. We shouldn't have to worry. They shouldn't have to worry about getting beat up or whatever just for their religion. And so we're better than this. So Mr. Banks, when we met in the hallway, you said, we've got work to do. And indeed we do. And hopefully it's not only a wake-up call for your school districts, but to everybody that's watching across America. It's 2024. 2024. There's no place for this at all in America. America's the last great hope where we can all hopefully get along, and we're not proving it very well. So I think the lesson too is no matter how small, and Ms. Ford Morthell, you said something too, no matter how small the incident, it needs to be investigated, and people need to be held to standards. There needs to be consequences for crossing that line. We're holding all of you because you hold our most precious asset, our kids. And so with that, to the kids and the parents and the teachers that I met with earlier, and that many of us did, we stand with you, and we will not cease shining the light and holding everybody accountable, because as a nation, we are better than this, and we all have a role to play. So our work begins today going forward. To the witnesses, thank you for coming forward, for your frank discussion, and for your commitment going forward that we all can live in a safe society without hatred and the fear of violence against us. And without objection, there being no further business, the subcommittee stands, and this hearing is now adjourned.
I hate all of them. I hate all of them so much. But you know what? We did our duty. We watched a congressional hearing. We all paid for that. Well, if you live in the United States, we paid for that. Anyway, I will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. As a reminder, on Saturdays, I stream at 6 p.m. I do not stream at 5 p.m. I stream at 6 p.m. because it's my weekend too, and I have other stuff I need to do. One of the other things I need to do is that we are having Bitchcraft tomorrow at 3 p.m. Bitchcraft is a private Zoom where we bitch and we craft. And how you get access to that is you head over to my Substack, Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com, and you click on this here Unwoke Roundup email, the one in the corner over here, and you scroll all the way down to the bottom. And underneath this red box for paid supporters, you will find the link to the Bitchcraft Zoom for tomorrow at 3 p.m. I will also be sending out reminders on the Substack and on Locals. And so come and join us for a chat. We'll knit and do other crafts for a couple hours and just talk about things and just hang out, and it'll be fine. Then we'll do Socialism Saturday at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Does anyone know what movie we're watching for movie night on Sunday? I apologize. I had to leave movie night early this week because we were watching Star Wars A, and B, Nick Fuentes was doing a Twitter space and I wanted to listen to that. Does anyone know what movie we're watching on Sunday for movie night? Anyone? Anyone who paid attention to Jennifer? I'm sorry. I just it was a poll. Hang on. Let me check the poll real quick. I'll tell you what movie we're watching for movie night. Let me find it. Let's see. It was a poll between... Oh, no one's voted in the poll. No one has voted in the fucking poll. Like 3 people have voted. So we have 2001: A Space Odyssey, Dune, or Blade Runner. I'm going to vote in the poll. There's still time to vote in the poll in Locals, guys. kb.locals.com. Just sign up for a free account if you're not a member. I'm going to vote for Dune. Blade Runner looks to be winning right now, but only 4 people have voted. So go vote in Jennifer's poll. Come on, guys. Jesus Christ. So we'll either be watching 2001: A Space Odyssey or Dune or Blade Runner on Sunday at 8 p.m. in the supporter Discord. And you can also find the link to the supporter Discord in the Unwoke Roundup email. And as a reminder, please do make sure you subscribe to my new Substack, speaksocialist.substack.com. This is where I will be doing a public writing of my next book, except that it'll be subscriber only. It's only for premium members. So you have to, and this is separate from my main Substack. So it's like another special perk. I'm writing a book called How to Speak Socialist, a non-leftist guide to understanding the left. It might change, the title might change. I'm going to take everyone through the process of writing a book. I've done 2 of them now. This will be my 3rd one. And I'm kind of looking forward to doing this Substack because it's going to I'm going to really be able to take my time and really do a good number on it. And I posted some thoughts last night about what I want the book to be. So you can access that right now. There's also a podcast version with the Substack that will go along with it. And so make sure you sign up over there, support the work I'm doing. I really do appreciate it. I can't do it without you guys. And one more reminder, if you want some sweet merch, I'm running a deal in the month of May in honor of Red May in the Unwoke Art Store, where if you purchase $100 worth of merch, and I've got so much stuff in the Unwoke Art Store. If you purchase $100 or more, use the discount code REDMAY and you will get 25% off your entire order. I have never done a deal like this, and the reason I'm doing a deal like this is because I want to cut down on the number of products in the store. So this is going to be a last call for some of the older products in the store. So maybe go through everything. Anyone can find something cool in the store. I've got a lot of cool shit. I've got awesome t-shirts. We've got zines. We've got the 4 goals of the woke left stuff. There are pint glasses. There are bags. There are framed prints. We've got the communism is all around us design that I did. We've got the dystopian series. Someone actually just bought this. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Hang on. There we go. Someone actually just bought this tank top today with the obey thing for this is an homage to They Live. This is my dystopian series that I did over Christmas. We've got the Fahrenheit 451 Forget design. I love this design. It looks so cool in person. We've got, let's see, what else do we have? 1984. This is one of my favorites. I actually wear this t-shirt around all the time. We've got the Clockwork Orange Notice design, which I actually think this is like an underrated design in the store. I actually think it's one of the best designs I've ever done. I think it looks so cool. And I actually used the Clockwork Orange font in it. We've got Animal Farm. We've got so much good stuff. We've got the Socialists Are Gay design. We've got Real Marxism. We've got the We're All Mad Here design. They've got water bottles, tumblers. I got so much shit. We've got the classic Be Different design, Be Bourgeois. We've got the White Rabbit design, and that isn't even the full catalog. I've got so much shit in this store that I'm going to work on a project where I'm going to be cleaning up and kind of eliminating some of the designs and of course, when you take stuff out, you're making room for new stuff to come in, right? And so there's so much stuff there. 25% off all orders of $100 or more for the entire month of May. Use the discount code REDMAY when you check out. That's all one word, REDMAY, REDMAY. And just get yourself some cool shit, man. And of course, all purchases do go to support the work I'm doing. And I really do appreciate it. All right, guys, I will see some of you on the Bitchcraft Zoom tomorrow. I will see more of you for Socialism Saturday tomorrow night. Cheers, guys. Happy Friday. I hope you have a good weekend. We'll see you soon. Bye.